Rockin'.
Yeah, welcome to Worcestery Council Theater 3000. I am Shaun Connolly. That's Brendan Melican.
Shaking.
Over there is Travis Duda. He's got
Usually
dogs
behind the
barking.
scenes. Yeah, this is a good stream. We're starting off strong.
Well, my dogs are barking too. Trekking around Worcester, trying to figure out what's wrong with it. We're going to figure out a little more of that tonight. We're sponsored, of course, by Crafty Kombucha, Worcester's local culture. Go buy you some.
Support local business.
Support local business. Worcester's other brewery. Brendan, what do we got on the agenda tonight? Anything worthwhile?
Starting to roll through some more of that. It looks like the one thing that stood out for me was it looks like Dr. Castile is going to be offering some sort of report on the state of the unhoused in Worcester.
Oh.
It jumped out to me because it seems like Worcester, at least it's going to be reported that we are seeing a marked decrease in the number of unhoused people in Worcester, which stands in contrast to the rest of the country. So yay, Worcester. We did it, apparently.
We did it. We solved it. Cities, come learn from us.
Yeah, no, that's we got all the answers.
Just in time for our 300th anniversary.
Yeah. The last night was the big exciting stuff. I mean, I don't know if any of that's going to spill over to the council tonight. I would be surprised if somebody doesn't mention that we just rolled back our mask mandate at the behest of Dr. Gary Rosen.
Despite cases being higher than when we first put it into place, we're getting rid of it, baby.
We did it there.
Well, on the 18th. On the 18th. It's not like
throw it up again. Throw it up again. Mission accomplished, baby.
Yeah, it's it seems like it's rushed, right?
My take is that the reality is it probably means nothing at the end of the day because a mandate that isn't enforced isn't really a mandate. Now, if like the three of us went out and just decided to stop wearing pants, that's probably going to be enforced. So like that's a real mandate. But I don't know. I've been in Target. People aren't wearing masks, and
it's true.
They're not getting hauled off for that infraction. So
no,
I agree.
It kind of is a go at your own sort of.
And I say what you will. I trust Dr. Hirsch, right? I think I trust Dr. Hirsch.
He was on Boston, WBUR's Boston Radio or Radio Boston yesterday, and he made some really good points about decreasing cases and whatnot. The one thing that sticks out though is Dr. Hirsch is saying that and logically sound, but then you get Dr. Rosen up saying, but it's good for business. And while it can be both of those things, I can't help but feel the pressure is not coming from a group of disgruntled epidemiologists who are really tired of wearing masks and more from the business community.
100%. I mean, we heard the calls of all the local business owners about the vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
All those tears. They were dabbing the tears with masks.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks, man, because it's I don't know. I was listening to 538 podcast the other day, and they were talking about some polling, which is just universally Americans are done, and it just doesn't matter what is real anymore. Americans are done.
But I think that's the entire segment that everyone's just sick of it.
Yeah.
I want to point out one of my petitions got struck down.
No donuts?
Bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
You know what it is? I know I talked to some people after I posted it on Instagram.
Nice to see you, Candy.
Wording. It's all about if I can word it if I worded it to say to change the law to enforce donuts to be at all gas stations, then they legally can't say no to it.
Interesting.
Okay. But I also forgot how many people I know work at City Hall and how many like there were 2 meetings were had because of me, and everyone's flow of their workday was ruined because of me. Like someone in City Hall, I'm not going to name names, had to set up a meeting with the solicitor to explain that I know this person and they are joking. Then they were like, well, we can't just go off your word. So we have to set up another meeting with the lawyers. And so they had to have another meeting with the entire city legal team to talk about what the legal ramifications of what I was petitioning were.
It's nice to realize we could have actually brought the entire city of Worcester to a screeching halt over donuts at gas stations with little effort at all. It's
really just
whim.
like a half drunk. I had a couple beers and I was like, oh, I'll write this. This is funny because Bergman sounds like an idiot right now.
And we wonder why nothing gets done at City Hall.
It is kind of wild though that like we literally could do this constantly. It could be in the future used as some sort of like resistance measure, like just to keep like halting the wheels of bureaucracy by putting in ridiculous petitions that they have to take seriously.
Yeah, that's you should definitely hold on to that one.
Yeah,
don't want them to figure that out in advance. Yeah.
This is by Steve Connolly.
Yeah. I just keep using my son. He's very engaged. I'm sorry. We took him to City Hall. He knows.
He has a lot of credit card debt that he has to get rid of. That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
anything else? Any other barn burners on the agenda?
No, I think we'll probably get at least one slideshow, right?
I hope so. Yeah. One that we're
it's-
promised is 3 slides, but 4 hours later seemed to be maybe a few more than that.
I will still take that, guys, over the library. The library was brutal.
Yeah, Yeti brought up something interesting too. Like, so the Board of Health actually tried to vote last night on ending the mask mandate for the public schools, even though it's not their mandate. That's a mandate that comes from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and then is second to that is the school committee's own mandate. Board of Health wasn't involved at all. It's but somehow Dr. Rosen is taking it upon himself to dictate school policy too.
Yeah.
Maybe if you've been on a board once 30 years ago, then that means that you hold on to the power that was bestowed upon you in that
You get that after board glow.
Yeah.
I did read an interesting thing about how like maybe mask mandates aren't the thing to hill to die on in schools.
Sure.
So I think that's where it's coming from, but like classic Worcester, we're just like doing it in the weirdest way possible, like to have the discussion. It's going to be like a backwards accidental way to have the discussion about it. It's like someone who can't actually have any real voting on, like any real say on it, is going to say something about it, and that's going to get the ball rolling with everyone else talking about it. It's like classic this city getting something done.
Well, and it's like what you mentioned, the business owners calling in about vaccine mandates. I mean, the majority of people that called in were calling from South Worcester County and places not Worcester. That's part of the challenge too, is like Worcester is a huge city geographically with a massive population. And it's not easy to come up with a one size fits all approach to anything, never mind whatever worked in Sutton. Like Sutton's going to have an easier time figuring shit out than Worcester is. And
yeah, Yeti, the 9A, that's Jenny Pacillo is still trying to get all this. She's gonna be calling in. Get ready. Well, she wrote her big speech for the phone call. We'll see. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's absurd how long this has taken. I mean, our viewers know that she's been at this now for just shy of 2 years, and it's absurd. It's absurd just to get one small thing changed.
Do we know when they're switching over to Zoom? That's actually the one
not tonight.
City council. Not tonight. Okay.
Yeah, they're definitely on WebEx. I checked.
I'm looking forward to that. That's
same. Well, because I want to actually get in the meeting, but no, we're still going to go through the Facebook stream.
March 1st. Okay.
And then, oh, okay, cool. For anybody that's watching and wondering where their normal hosts are, Bryan is off, apparently dead.
Bryan is still dead. Bryan is still very much dead. And Bill is a music nerd playing the cello.
He is actually playing the cello?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's like a good cellist, too.
Why is he not performing for us?
He'll be like, I'm just, but he's a good cellist.
That's awesome.
We need more boozing cellists.
Yeah.
So he should be with us at some point this evening.
Yeah, he's coming from Pawtucket,
Just like the Red Sox.
the Worcester of Rhode Island.
Yeah, so I wasn't seeing too much more in there. It looks like there's a bunch of old orders.
Yep.
Connie Luke's coming back to the in the form of a 2019 order that's been kicking around.
Yep.
But yeah, there's and
Eddie Mecca. Eddie Mecca no longer on.
They pulled Eddie Mecca, huh?
They did.
Never got a chance to make fun of that.
I know.
Yeah, that was I wasn't thrilled about that, to be honest with you.
Do you know Eddie Mecca, Travis?
No.
You don't know Worcester's
The Guy Galotis of Laverne and Shirley?
Yeah. I'm gonna say Worcester's the Fonz.
Okay. So I didn't know him by name, but I do know who he was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, someone wanted Eddie Mecca Way named somewhere in the city. They didn't
Why
even.
not?
They were not even specific. They were just like, just somewhere.
Reasonable request.
I'm sure one of those dumb side streets off Shrewsbury Street could be turned into Eddie Mecca Way.
Yeah, a parking lot from the DPW impound that leads
Honestly,
somewhere.
like you pointed out, Brendan, the General Pickett Pavilion.
Yeah.
It could be Eddie Mecca Pavilion.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
And then
That
we
was
could
a
have-
different General Pickett, by the way, too. I don't know if I ever corrected myself on that. So that's
Not
yeah.
the same Pickett.
That wasn't a
No.
Confederate picket, which is it's fantastic that Worcester picked a different picket. Yeah.
He was actually a local guy. It was
Yeah.
interesting. It was there wasn't very much about him, but he led charge bravely.
Yeah, unfortunately, the picket who with the same name who there is a ton about is like a disgraced Confederate general. Yeah, but that's not what we're naming stuff after.
Born in Beverly, Mass.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay,
Born in Beverly in 1822.
what's Yenny got down here in the comments? It's kind of interesting. Some of the road work that's being scheduled coming up. That's one that is still fascinating to me, how little road work we actually have done on a regular basis and how long the backlog is.
And how it feels like we're constantly doing road work in this city.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're finally working on the never-ending fountain over by the Big Y over here in Tatnick. Like there's just been this pothole that has been leaking for months and it freezes over every time. It was like a legitimate river. And finally today they're working on it.
Yeah, what Ringo was talking about there, that was GBH had a story about that. So that is the NSC 131, and they one of their co-founders is from Worcester. The author of that story, I think, took some liberties saying that they were founded here in Worcester. It's they're definitely founded out in the Boston area.
And one of the organizers is from here.
Yeah. They were actual, unlike some of our fake commenters last week, they were actual attendees at January 6th, the Capitol. They actually brought back a riot helmet from a Capitol police officer as a trophy, and proudly had that on their little Telegram feed and whatnot. But
Like Vietnam War teeth.
man, it's time
Mr.
to be alive,
Chairman,
I guess.
Nobody took a roll call. I apologize for interrupting.
I'd like to get into the roll call, Mr. Okay, roll call.
Council Bergman,
Here.
Council Corio,
Here.
Charles
Here.
Council King, Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Council Nguyen.
Here.
Council Rivera,
Here.
Council Rose,
Here.
Council Russell,
Here.
Council Toomey,
Here.
and Mayor Petty.
I just did that twice.
Public participation, Council Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that there are a lot of people calling in support or opposition of 11E, the Battle Stop zoning change. I just wanted, if permissible, prior to public participation, I was hoping we could let residents know that after talking to the property owner and his representation, I'd like to recommit 11E back to economic development. I'd like one last meeting to come up with some consensus and compromise on this change, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do then is we will take public participation. Then we'll do the petitions. Then we'll go to number 11 there.
Somebody
Brattle
has some
Street.
static on the
We have
line,
to take
but I
it
think
off
it's
the
on their
table,
video.
so people want to
I think it is on the video. Joe, we need to go to Zoom.
public participation, so we'll see how that goes. So what we'll do is public participation, we'll do the petitions, then go to, what number was that, 11E, you said?
Yeah, that's I forgot. Remember that? That was a meltdown in the call lines once about the Brattle thing.
Mr. Clerk, how many people do we have on the phone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have about 23 people on the phone.
Oh, good.
So the motion at that time, the suggestion, I guess, would be to send it back, recommit it back to economic development.
They don't want Brattle to be changed. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that was
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to start with the phone
I think it was
call.
the last in-person
who's
meeting they
first?
had.
Yeah,
Say your,
yeah.
Phone number, the first 6 digits. I'm going to try to unmute you one at a time. First phone number I can identify is 508-795. I'm going to try to unmute that phone number. Can you please state your name, city of residence, and the item you're calling about?
Nico with a fresh cut.
My name is
Yeah.
Michael O'Malley. I'm a city resident of Worcester, calling about the Brattle Street Market in favor of it.
In favor of it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, bud.
Can I speak now? Or-
Oh, I was going to try to do the Brow Street thing together after everybody else speaks. Can you wait a few minutes?
Okay. Sure.
Okay. So we're going to try to do with everybody speak on the other.
Just
items,
wait,
then we'll
Santo
go to
Apostles.
The Brow Street one where people can speak together on that if they want to. And it's going to be sent back, well, the suggestion is on the council rules is recommitted to committee. Okay. Go ahead. Nico, there you go. I think you're muted. There you go.
Mr. Mayor, the next phone number I can identify is 774-303. I'm going to try to unmute that phone number now. If you're online, can you please state your name and city of residence and the item you're calling about?
Hi, I'm calling. My name is Sherry Stanley from Worcester, Mass. I am a member of the WASP, and I'm calling to let you guys know that we have a trying to get a city council meeting on this Trapasso reinstatement, and we're working on that.
What?
I just wanted to inform you guys of that.
What?
Thank you.
She's part of the Wasps.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker identified
What?
the phone number is 508-277. I'm going to try and mute that
Oh,
phone number
waft. Thank you.
Thank
now.
you.
Number 508-277, you're unmuted.
Okay, that's me. My name is Silas Sanderson. I'm a resident of Auburn.
Get outta
calling
here.
Regarding the Trapasso's continuation of his position as constable, not in favor of that order.
Thank you.
Was it he's against someone getting reinstated as a
Mr. Mayor,
constable?
the
Is that what he
next speaker
said?
identifies 902-222. I'll mute that phone number now.
Thanks, Mo.
Chris Horton, I'm a resident of Worcester, Massachusetts, calling from Halifax, and I am
Halifax?
calling to oppose the approval, the reappointment of Francis Trapasso as constable.
Whoa, this is crazy.
The sense where he was in charge of the constables, and his behavior and attitude and performance were truly outrageous. That's something that I do not believe the city of Worcester wants to be have any responsibility for.
Wow.
I won't go into details of exactly what he did, but
Spill that tea.
several occasions.
Is he saying who's he saying? Francis Trapasso?
Yeah.
At a time
Wow.
when he was constrained by the presence of the Leicester police from actually violating the law. He threatened a number of people with arrest, and when presented with the law that said that he did not have that power, that had to be done by the police, he said in a loud, blustery voice, "I can do anything I want." And then again, on the question of whether he was allowed to break in the windows to get into the building, I don't know what the law is on that, but I know that he just announced in a really loud voice, "I can do anything I want." And that is not a good job description for a constable performing his duties prescribed by law. So I would really urge that this matter be brought to an actual hearing by the city council to consider the matter of whether he should be his license as a constable by the city of Worcester should be renewed.
Damn.
Loving this.
Thank you. Okay.
He is.
Okay, next.
He's. Francis knows a lot of people.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker
Just looking at him on
is,
Facebook
phone
right now.
number is 774.
You ran for office a couple years
641.
back.
Yeah, I remember
I'm
that.
gonna mute you now.
There you go, Thaw.
I've been muted 774-641. Okay, not hearing from that phone. Oh,
It really does,
yep,
Jess.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Carl Johnson. I am formerly of Leicester. Now I am at 467 Salisbury Street in Worcester. I am one of the people that Chris was just referring to. Mr. Trapasso has been acting well.
I love this curveball that we did not see coming. This is so fun.
I think that the city would be risking being in the middle of a number of lawsuits should they continue his position as a constable for the city of Worcester. We have a number of specifics that we would be very happy to show to the council at large or anyone that needs to see it.
Damn.
But I won't tie this meeting up with that. As was suggested, I think we should have a hearing with regards to his actions and the fact that he has both threatened and lied to people in the process of doing his job.
Well, that's like everybody on this meeting. Come on, that's
Yeah, really. They don't look very
Mr.
surprised.
Mayor, the next phone number is 508-612. I'm going to mute you now.
Francis.
508-612, you're unmuted.
Candy.
You're not hearing from that
Hello.
phone number.
Hello, is that me?
That is correct. That is you.
Okay. My name is Jared Niebuhr. I'm 18 Peel Ave in Worcester, Mass. I am calling in support of construction for Rattle Street Market. Like, it's my local corner market, and I guess they're trying to expand. And I don't totally know exactly what I'm supposed to say. But I support them, and I think they should be able
I
to
didn't get my
expand a little,
script,
make
but I love
parking
muffin
better,
loaves. So let's bring the
just for the
construction.
area.
I appreciate the honesty.
And,
I went to Brattle Street recently to go pick up wine for my parents because they live near there. And there's a sign that says, "Please stop yelling at us about the mask. It's not our rule. Stop yelling at us." Like, it's exactly what it says.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is phone number is 774-415. I'll unmute you now.
Apparently just goes around and threatens
Bill Gem,
people.
Worcester, Mass.
Yeah, breaks
When the
into
police
places.
aren't available, they
Calling
send
in
out a
opposition
constable.
to the Brattle Street. I know
Gospel's help with.
there's been a motion now or suggestion to send
Oh my
it to the
gosh.
committee. The only thing I would say is, it's been going on for a year.
Yeah.
I'd rather see it
There you go. Thank you, Thought.
handled for a vote tonight, but just wanted to make a
That's gotta
quick
be a tough
comment.
job,
I'd
but-
never heard the term spot zoning until the planning board members expressed concern that this may be spot zoning. So I looked it up, and Webster's defines spot zoning as the rezoning of a small parcel of land within the limits of another zone.
I love this
Illegal
valedictorian
or
speech.
Not done in accord with a comprehensive zoning plan or when arbitrary or discriminatory. To me, 7 Brattle Street is exactly what the spirit of that law is intended to prevent. 7 Brattle is in
My
the
law
middle of
book,
RS7
Webster's
zoning.
Dictionary.
It
has all the words in the law book in it.
Yeah, technically it does.
From 7, whether you go Holden Street, Brattle Street, Ararat, Estabrook,
I know the streets
or
around there.
Smith or Moody, everything is RS7. It still operates today as a single-family home, and it's in no way needed to support the continued use of the Brattle Stop. We all know the Brattle Stop can operate under the current zoning or with some modification to the zoning on 1 Brattle. The rezoning of 1 Brattle alone would triple the
Really?
area the market is currently using. The reason
Is that true,
144
Lowell
neighbors
Paul?
that live right here signed a
I
petition
hope that
to
is
stop
true. I
this
want a
is
donut cafe.
They would all
No,
ask
shut
me the
up.
question.
That would
why
you
would
could
the
roll out
city
of bed,
use
Travis.
7 Brattle? And then the next question they would say is, why would the city allow it? just want to say that neighborhoods are important to any city, and to arbitrarily rezone a lot in the middle of an RS7 neighborhood is just not right, and it would harm property values and the quality of life for
But they do so much for the neighborhood.
My wife was like,
That's the part I don't get. Brattle does so much for that. They're the local
First of all, I wonder if we could protest.
pizza
what
sandwich
Charles is
shop,
trying to do.
liquor store.
I don't know why he'd want to do this. He spoke with Costa. He never let us know about it until about 20 minutes ago. But I timed my speech, so it will only take me less than 2 minutes. I'd like to use my time to do a quick recap of my husband's and my past year. We were under the understanding for a couple of years from what the owners told us that they planned on tearing down their current store and moving it back. And after Christmas of 2020, the real plan was sent to us by the planning board, and we had a week to decide whether to try and stop it or sit back and let it happen. Well, we decided we couldn't let this happen to our neighborhood, so we started, and tonight it is left in your hands. My husband and I never thought we not only would be involved in something like this, but be the catalyst of our wonderful supportive group. Now we've done all that could possibly be done to stop this, because it is simply wrong to let this happen for no other reason than someone wants it. That's it. That's the reason. One man wants it. 144 closest neighbors do not. So we began hours spent canvassing our neighborhood.
Hours.
Explaining to people what was really going on at the store. And
No,
asking
Todd
people
did
to
it
sign a
too.
petition. Multiple emails to councilors. Even my desperation call to the Jim Polito show. That call helped us feel that what we were doing was worthy of a fight.
Jim
recommended
Polito.
Call to Jordan Levy, which, although uncomfortable, I did. Jordan was so gracious with his advice and directed me to Councilor Bergman. Sorry, Mo. I want to especially thank Mo, who I also felt uncomfortable calling. But the first thing he said to me, and I'll never forget it, was, I work for you. He was the first councilor to show up at our home and see for himself what was going on. He doesn't know this, but his visit re-energized us and helped us pursue the rest of the council.
Sean Rose did nothing.
Calorio, Toomey, Haziai, Nguyen, King, former Councilor Rosen, Mayor Petty, as well as his Chief of Staff, Dan Rassacourt, for taking the time to come by and see what was going on.
Don't you
and listen
dare
to our
drag Dan
concerns.
into this.
Now we are asking you.
Dan's like,
to
what
also
the
listen.
hell? I'm
We
six
are not
I'm six
trying to
deep
stop
at
the
Nick's right
store
now.
from replacing the building. We are not trying to stop them from expanding or their continued success. We are asking you to vote with the
She's
people
getting
of this
close.
neighborhood who have spoken
4,
and keep the
3,
expansion to a
2,
minimum and preserve
1.
the beautiful
She's a
neighborhood
liar.
we call home.
She timed it
We
wrong.
don't need to fight any longer. Going back to this.
You're over 2
economic
minutes,
board that took
bitch.
8 months from one decision to the next took up our whole year.
Whole
Thank
year.
Thank you. I'm just gonna take this off the table so we, by the rules, we can talk about it. That's how they control it. Everybody's on Zoom here. So upon the report of the planning board from the petitioner O'Donnell near request to amend the zoning map by changing the zoning
You still get cut
land
off.
located at 1 Brow Street, 7 Brow Street from RS7 to PL10. Recommend passes the accompanying ordinance. So the motion is to take it off the table.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I'd recuse myself because I'm a property owner in the neighborhood.
sure, understood.
Where aren't you?
Roll call.
So, Mr. Mayor, take it off the table. 11E, Council Bergman,
Yes.
Council Calorio,
Yes.
Council Hajiye,
Yes.
Council King,
Yes.
Council Merrill Carlson,
Yes.
Council Nguyen,
Yes.
Council Rivera,
Yes.
Council Rose,
Yes.
Council Russell has recused himself, Council Toomey,
Yes.
and Mayor Petty.
Yes. You can go, maybe go back to Mike Malley, the first call we had, to see if he wants to testify now. Or we don't.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, I can try to locate the first calling.
Yeah, exactly, Thug. Good point.
I don't know if we still have him on, though.
I actually don't know either, to be honest. This is when we
Yeah,
really
it
need
looks
Bill,
like he's
unless
on
Brendan
something.
knows.
No, all I
Okay.
caught was at the beginning,
We'll go on
Sean
to the
asking
next
for it to go back to economic development.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. True. So that's where it's
The
going to
next phone
go.
number we can identify at this time is 774-239. If I unmute you now, can you please state your name?
Yeah. Why
State your
doesn't
residence,
Russell
and your
recuse
calling number.
recuse himself on the eviction moratorium, but stays here on this
You got the number
stupid thing?
774-239.
I had asked that question, and apparently it's because of the broadness of the eviction
Okay, not
moratorium
here
for
for
like
that phone number. We can move on.
because he actually owns property adjacent to the Brattle Stop. He has a direct interest, but just being a
We're
landlord,
at 6
there's
Southview
so
Road.
many
Can
of
you please
those.
say your
It's
full name and
too
city of
broad
residence?
a category to
Sure, Scott
shoehorn
Hershey,
somebody in.
6 Southview Road in Worcester. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Brattle. I think that there are a lot more people in this area than the 144 people that are opposed to it. That's been a big part of all of our families, the Brattle and the Brattle the family that runs the Brattle, have been a big part of all of our kids' lives as we've lived up here. And I think that that this is the essence of the city of Worcester, is businesses in the neighborhoods, and that has certainly been one of them. And I think that to tell them that they can't expand for a building that is clearly
that woman with the story, she had no reason. She just said she worked hard to get this stopped, but she didn't say why it was going to be bad.
Just because one guy wants
change
it.
something.
We don't look
Yeah.
at them as
It's going to change something, and we hate change.
part of the family.
Yeah, like they're so intricate to your neighborhood. It's like they're so important to that they have nothing else around there.
250. Unmute you now.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can't go ahead.
Of course, they're
My
worried
name
about
is Sally
traffic.
Medina. I'm in District 5, Atal Hajahi District, and I'm calling in for 7J and 7K. Gordon Davis requests the city manager to review the city ordinance pertaining to human rights. And the other one is the procedures for filing discrimination. And so perceptions are always influenced by our own biases. After all, self-preservation is a natural instinct. However, complaints are an important way for the city of Worcester and its department to be accountable to the public and
Is
provide
Worcester thaw
valuable
Mo Bergman?
accountability and view the city's performance and the conduct of people who work within and for it. Institutional racism exists, but until there is an equitable, fair, and better, yet actual process for communities to make complaints when they feel they have been violated or mistreated by government employees, we are failing. So I ask this consideration, the city council, the mayor, and the city manager to take this into consideration when talking about institutional racism and process in the city. Thank you.
What if Thaw and Mo were Nelly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker is 5.
I'd be impressed if she could do it while giving that speech.
Good evening. My name is Carl Hultgren. I work at Quinn Engineering.
Hi, Carl.
We're working on behalf of the petitioner, Don O'Neill, and the developer at 1 and 7 Brattle Street, available to answer any questions you guys might have on the site itself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next speaker.
Yeah, traffic did come up the first night that they heard this, but it sounded like the and looking at the plans, like it's a significant redesign of that whole property that would decrease traffic, it would seem. I mean, which is like a notoriously confusing intersection.
It sucks.
Yeah.
My name is Nancy Jansen. I live on Rochelle Street.
Nancy
which is
Jansen.
right off of Brattle Street. Just calling in opposition to changing the zoning law.
You
from
don't
7 Brattle
say.
Street to commercial or business zone. The market at 1 Brattle Street, we have no problem with them tearing down the current building, expanding it, or changing 1 Brattle Street to business zoning, but building a new building or new store within the confines of 1 Brattle Street. We just oppose tearing down a residential house, changing the zoning of 7 Brattle Street to business. This is a residential area. We feel that expanding the business zone or changing it would change the fabric
You're okay with
of
the
this
pizza
nice
place and having a liquor store?
residential neighborhood. So my husband
Well, I
and
gotta
both
drink
oppose
something, Sean.
to
I just need my
changing
soda
7
home
Brattle
and my
Street to
cheese
a,
pizzas.
Nancy Jansen gets freaky with a cheese
Thank you
pizza
very
and a
much.
box of wine.
Mr. Mayor, the next calling user is 508-579.
Bratty Brattle Bottoms Unite.
Good evening, Mr. Clerk. Mayor Alex Guardiola, Worcester Chamber of Commerce. I know
this guy again.
E is being sent back to ED or requested to be sent back to ED. So I will reserve my comments for that
True.
committee.
Yes.
I do want to
Knock
just
it all
say
down.
that this is an opportunity for us to work as a collaborative
I
group.
thought you were going to hold your
I know that
comments.
there's some folks on both sides.
This guy's a
and
liar.
We hope that, you know, at ED we can come to an agreement to allow this, you know, immigrant family who's really worked hard to try to get this shopping building to a point where it's structurally sound.
We're going to get
still
that
gonna be
going.
viable for years to come.
This is coming.
Thank you so much in
Mm.
advance. And
I'm going to go say goodnight to
have
my
the
kid real
opportunity
quick. I'll be right back.
to Thank you.
All right.
All
Good night, kid.
Bye, Papa
Thank you.
Sean.
Next speaker.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is 58450. I'm going to try to unmute you now.
Yes, hello?
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah, this is Michelle Brown. I live on Brattle Street. I am opposed to the market. There are several reasons. There's several large lots on Brattle Street. What is the effect of changing the zoning going to do to the rest of the neighborhood?
Are we going to
I
build
mean,
in
I would tear
hotels?
down my house and
It's
probably
monopoly.
Put up a 6-foot. Is that
I heard
what
they
the
were all gonna be
neighborhood
flop
wants? You're
houses.
allowing
Yep.
spot zoning. I think we're opening ourselves up to the same thing happening as what happened with the front of Midland Street School. You know, there was at any rate, as far as the rest of the property goes and the property owner or the store owner,
That's a
you know,
great
it's
question,
certainly
Bob Parker.
a wonderful family. However, I coordinated so many cleanups in the front of that market. The first cleanup, and this is during the time that
I
that
called my
owner
sister.
owned the
She
property.
called her
We
friend.
took out 46 wheelbarrows or over
46
wheelbarrows
wheelbarrows.
of trash from in front of the market. I've notified the railroad about the fence. The railroad immediately will replace the fence within a week if they're notified that it's broken. However, the owners of the market have their lot plowed. The plow owner or someone else breaks down the fence and it's never repaired. I've told them several times. I just don't see us
Next time
allowing
any
them
of
to
you are
expand their
driving
property
along
when they're not
290
even
and you
maintaining
ask
what they
yourself,
have
like,
right
why doesn't
now.
Worcester have a
I have an old
skyline?
house. I understand
This is why Worcester doesn't
what
have a
it takes
skyline.
to keep it intact. I'm concerned about the traffic. There hasn't been a traffic study done since 2019. At that
Thanks,
time,
Yanni.
I think there was 11,000 cars on
We're happy to
Ararat Street.
be here.
You know, the market with the two railroad crossings, I just don't see an
Agreed.
additional store frontage and traffic as a result of that is being wise. And I'm wondering why we're going to have another Kelly Square. I appreciate you listening. Thank you very much.
That's what we need.
Thank
We
you.
need like 2, maybe 3 more Kelly Squares.
At a minimum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next
Every
speaker is
neighborhood should have a Kelly Square.
58854.
And not a peanut. Old school Kelly Square.
Yeah, of course, with
I'm gonna try to
knives
unmute you now.
and rings of fire.
That must be me. My name is Marianne Cameron. I am a resident of the Burncoat area of Worcester, and I am calling also in the matter of rezoning the residential lots for the Brattle Stop Market. The cornerstone of this great country is democracy. The cornerstone of any good democracy is the voice of the people. Here tonight, we have an excellent example of democracy in action as it hears and
Bob
acts
Barker, we are in
on the
Worcester,
voices and
Massachusetts.
the will of the people it represents. This council has been elected by the people to represent the will of the residents here in our city. The neighborhood in question tonight has overwhelmingly voiced their opinions on this matter and agree they do not want the proposed plan to go forward. I implore the council to strongly consider the voices of its people here tonight. We cannot allow the very fabric of these old residential Worcester neighborhoods to be destroyed and set a dangerous precedent for the future development and preservation of our city. Please hear the very real concerns of the people and listen to your hearts. This is not a matter of expanding a simple store
these
and
tears?
moving it back to what is now an empty lot. Knocking down a home with residents in it definitely sets a dangerous precedent for the rest
Yeah,
of
because
the
they're not
city.
going to let the residents know
Imagine
they're
it was
knocking it
your
down. They're
neighborhood
just going to
and
come and
your
knock it
home
down in
that
the middle of
would
the
soon be
night.
next to a parking lot and a strip
Take
mall
this,
instead of a
suckers.
small home and a nice family. While I'm sure these meetings can be boring and complaints from residents tiring, please listen
Exhausting,
to this neighborhood
actually.
pleading
Exhausting.
for your help, begging you
Word
to
you're
preserve
looking
the integrity of the residential area that they call home.
Mind numbing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Park?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we're done with the phone call users. Now we're going to move on to folks with electronic devices. Next calling user is Carl Holgreen. I'm going to try to mute Carl now. Carl, can you hear us? Okay, not hearing from call. We're going to move on to the next calling user, Fred Taylor. No, I'll mute you now.
Fred's a good dude.
I'm just observing tonight. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. The next speaker is Gail Ferron. I'm going to try to
do it
unmute
up,
Gail
Bob.
now.
You have a little bit of time left.
Gotta do something.
Tell him you like Brattle Street Market.
Nope, I'm just observing.
The next speaker is Jenny Pacillo. Trying to unmute Jenny.
Here we go.
Hi, everyone. This is Jenny from Burncoat. I'm calling to speak on item 9A.
You notice
I just
everybody
want
gets
to thank
smiles.
The clerk's office for their continued commitment
Yeah.
to accessibility. I love that we can search city council and standing committee agendas. The Find My Counselor upgrades are awesome, and your videos to help explain different ways to interact with the council are really fun. You guys are crushing it. I just have one tiny concern. Probably guess it's with the sign-up requirement to engage with the council via remote participation. I understand this is a way for residents to request translation services, which is great, but they can do that by emailing or calling you guys 48 hours prior to any meeting. I'm not sure if this is a way to streamline public participation by getting residents' names ahead of time, but won't you be able to see everyone's names when you switch to Zoom? Anyway, it might seem silly to call in about something so small, but even the tiniest barrier is still a barrier for some people. And I was so happy when everyone agreed to remote permanent access. And this is like half a step back. So I'd just like
Clem
to know
can
what
be
the
kind of like a
parameters
little
for the
tiny
council that they could and choose to act are. Who will have access to the list of participants before the meeting?
She's
What
going to
will
do one of
happen
these
if
super
an
sweet calls
excessive
one of
amount
these
people
nights
sign
where
up? Do you have to
no
register? Do you
video
wanna
and makes it
speak on?
sound
Blah,
like
blah,
she's
blah.
hitting the kid,
Anyway, I swear I don't mean to be a pain. I just want everyone
doesn't
to be
break
as
character.
excited to talk to you guys as I am, and I want everyone to be able to do it as easily as possible. I really appreciate all the hard work from everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker is Joseph.
What happened with Nico?
Try to mute Joseph now.
As soon as Jenny started talking,
Hello.
Nico smirked and
I'm
smiled.
Joseph Boblander. I'd like to speak.
You smiled the whole time.
9A. I
Not
just wanted to say
yeah,
this
the whole
fucking
time she
council
was
sucks
talking.
and fuck all of you. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's unfortunate. I apologize to the council. I apologize to the listening.
What did you say?
Something about
That's a real name. We'll remember it for the next time.
it was 9A, and
Mr. Mayor, the next
you all
calling
suck
user
and
is Kevin
fuck all
Cassett.
of you.
I'm going to try and mute Kevin.
I think that could have been actually one of our viewers.
I was just thinking that.
That guy Bob
support,
said he was going to call in.
The
so.
efforts to move forward with 9A. We have so much work to do in terms of transparency and getting stuff out there. So I'd like to support this moving forward.
We
I
don't
do want to flag for
endorse
city
calling
councilors,
and
though,
just
that
harassing them.
at the end of this report is a proposal from the city treasurer
Thanks for that, Bob.
that we use ARPA funds to fund this project.
If you do, go for
I
subtlety.
just want to flag it.
Yeah.
It feels like every other week there's some sort of proposal coming out of the treasurer's office on how to spend ARPA funds. We've all been told
Yeah, we
multiple
need
times
somebody to
now that
clip
we're
that
going
for us,
to
please.
have equity audits of all this money. That hasn't even started yet.
Jenny just did.
We give millions of dollars in tip dollars, and we have a whole list of requirements. And I know, Mayor Petty, you've been working on trying to get that list. But we really should
Jasper
figure
says
out
it wasn't Bob.
what requirements we're putting on spending this money, what kind of job creation, what sort of workforce diversity. None of that's attached to the money when we go and spend it on a software in City Hall. So please look more
Good luck,
deeply at
Yanni.
that before we keep making the list of things we spend the ARPA money on longer. And then I also just like to support folks calling in around Constable Trapasso. It
Sorry
sounds
about
like there's a lot of issues. Sounds like it's something specific and detailed. We should create an opportunity to kind of look at that and have a hearing or something to address that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker is Kim McCoy. I'm going to try to mute Kim now.
Who knows? Paul, we don't know.
Yes, my wife and I both oppose the Brattle Street zoning change. I strongly agree with all the others who've spoken about that.
And primarily the guy that said you guys fucking sucks.
Spoke with an engineer who tested
Does this guy have
whether,
chartered telephone?
has taken proper care of the existing building and whether demolition.
He's
is
talking through like 4 masks.
he was convinced the historical commission to allow. This is an engineer who's been
Yeah, I'll see if I can raise it up.
I don't think it's you.
Express my support for the candidate.
Just want to tell you that I really like stuff.
For the Green Worcester advisory
Ever since I've been a parent in the Peanuts universe.
with concerns about the arrogance of the fund. And I'd like to suggest 2 changes to the minutes for the last meeting. One, there seems to be inconsistency or confusion about how Councilor Ajay voted. In one part of the minutes, it says that he voted against reconsideration, but voted for referring to the Economic Development Committee. But under item 16B, it says she opposed that. So it seems like something needs to be cleaned up. I had also suggested another change to the minutes to Mayor Petty, but assuming
What is this guy talking about? He started on Brattle Street. Now he's like a Wikipedia editor.
Nikki,
Thank you for that.
thank you for that. That's
That
amazing.
sounds great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker is Mary Niddle. I'm going to try to mute Mary now.
Hi, everybody. I am just appreciating the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
She's getting signed in somewhere.
Next speaker is Mary.
She's also in my mom's prayer group.
Is Zoom going to cut down on this? Like, will everybody be video?
I
Or
actually already spoke on the phone. I didn't realize that you could do both. Thank you.
Why are you on both?
The next speaker is Mike Hawk. I'm going to try to mute Mike now.
Fuck all of you.
Hey there. I live in District 5. I would just like to speak on the constable.
That name
who
says
will-
Mike Hawk.
Yeah, I would just like to urge you all to have a meeting with the organizers in question. I think that's one. I'm not a member, but I do have a lot of experience with all 3 constables, all of which have done some really egregious things, especially
it is.
Trapasso. You really cannot move forward with their appointments. You're just going to collect a lot of lawsuits for the city. So I'd urge you to reconsider that as much as you can. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah, Mike Hawk. Mike Hawk was eloquent.
Nancy Jansen. I'm going to try to mute Nancy now.
Nancy Jansen's back.
I don't think she's back.
Oh God, thank God.
I just want another 2 minutes to tell another story.
Hi, I'm Nicole Apostolo, and I'm a resident of Worcester. I wanted to speak about item 9A. There are many good aspects of this proposal, but I wanted to echo what my dear friend Kevin Cassan said. At the very end of this item, the city clerk indicates that an accessible agenda solution may qualify for ARPA funding for the next 4 years. ARPA funding is truly not supposed to be for operational expenses, which is what an agenda management system would be. Many residents have spoken at numerous listening sessions about what they would like ARPA funds to be spent on. I would urge the City Council to focus on using ARPA funds to assist small businesses and those hardest hit by the pandemic, especially Black and Brown residents, and to prioritize the items residents of the city have already indicated they would like ARPA funds to pay for. We could even use ARPA funds for infrastructure improvements. For example, we could ensure that human waste no longer regularly flows into Lake Quinsigamond.
No.
But I would urge the council not to spend any
Why
ARPA
ruin
funds
it?
on an agenda solution.
When are we
need
gonna
spend
swim in,
ARPA funds
Nicole?
on investing more directly in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Paul Poplachek. I'm going to try to mute Paul now.
Oh, I'm just logged in to listen. Thank you.
Okay. The next speaker is Richard Klein. I'm going to try to mute Richard now. Mr. Klein, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything to say. I was just watching.
This is adorable.
Next speaker is Thomas Keating. I'm going to try to mute Thomas now. Mr. Keating?
Good evening. I'm just calling to oppose the expansion of the Brattle Street Market. because
Someone
it's
clip
impacted
this.
all the neighbors.
Clip this shit right
who
here.
lived there for so many years, and the work that has gone into people's properties. This can be done anywhere in the city if this is allowed here. We certainly know that the families around there have certainly supported most of the things in City of Worcester has done. And at this time, it's time for the city.
If I owned Brattle, I would be so disheartened
Thank
that
you.
like my neighborhood hates me.
Yeah, but it's not the whole neighborhood. It's
I
just
know, but
these-
like just it's just
yeah.
you know what I mean. Just hearing all this vocal animosity towards the thing that like you, I'm sure they thought
Yeah,
with the best
David Molina.
intentions.
I was actually just here really to talk about an experience I had recently. I'm actually originally from Stockbridge, which is a little far out from here, but yeah. Earlier today I was walking around the town and. Huh?
Do you have an item number on here that you want to talk about? Or?
Yeah, 9A.
9A. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Is that a problem?
No. I thought you were going to talk about something.
I hope this guy breaks into a sea shanty.
Okay, cool. Anyway, earlier today I was walking around the neighborhood and I saw a large wheelbarrow. Sorry, it's making me laugh a little bit here. I saw a large wheelbarrow.
I'm nervous about this. I'm nervous for this, dude.
Fuck this city council, man.
Okay.
Oh, all
We're
right.
gonna
We
close
don't
it down.
endorse
How many
this.
people you
We
have in the
don't
room?
endorse this. But that was funny.
Mr. Mayor, we got a few more speakers.
2 more? Okay.
I blame Jenny for all of this. If she wasn't encouraging public participation.
Yeah. This is no, you know who this is? This is Bill and Brian's fault for not being here.
Brian, R.I.P.
Mr. Mayor,
Brian.
next
Brian's
speaker
dead.
identifies Thomas William Blanken. I'm trying to mute William now.
I'm calling about the zoning change for 7 Brattle Street. I'm still opposed to it. It's been going on.
Still, we all have been paying attention to your views the whole time, so we're glad to hear you're still.
To really find a good, positive solution that everybody can live with. I know that the parties involved have said that if they don't
Why are you
get
correcting
7
the
Brattle, then
wheelbarrow
they
thing?
can proceed with the plan. And it's probably true in its present form, but as we all know, there have been impossible engineering feats that happened through hard work, diligence, and good planning. So I don't think 7 Brattle should be demolished. I don't think the zoning change should take place for that. And I do think that the owners, if they reevaluate, could do something that would be equitable to the neighborhood and help them achieve their goals if they just have 1 Brattle and redevelop their plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
For real.
You're on mute.
Mr. Mayor, the last speaker can identify is Yenny DeRoche.
How did that guy get
Hi,
before Yenny?
I'm Yenny. I'm in Newton Square in District 5. I'm calling in with comments on items 8.6A, 8.18A, and 9A. 8.6A, I'm really glad that this list is so long because it means a lot of streets are being repaired. But I noticed that a lot of the items getting repaired now are items that were approved.
Jenny, we can hear
in
all 15 of your
95 by
dogs
the
barking
city
in the
council.
background.
That's
Police are on their way.
close to 30 years ago, and the rating for roads in
It was
excellent
made.
condition is estimated to be 15 to 25 years in that same document. Why do we still have a backlog of streets that need repair after nearly 30 years? How many streets do we still have on that list that are old, and how long do we have to wait to not have our tires, suspensions, and shocks destroyed on them? I asked a similar question last year when a similar list went up showing a sidewalk from 97 on the repair list and never got a sufficient answer. On 818A, I'm not an expert on homelessness. I just wanted to point out the ratio of shelter and transitional housing to unhousing has shifted towards unhoused.
A good crack tells a good
I think
story,
that
Ringo.
should be a flag for us seriously taking consideration into our shelters and making sure that it is done through people who are using them's eyes with their voices and not through a consultant or staff member. With 9A, I'm really glad to see an option of receiving notifications about new agenda items and meetings being added to the calendar. Engaging the public in this way that they can passively get the information is a great step for reminding people to stay engaged. But if this could be, please be posted about on social media so people know that it exists and can register for it, that would be
Agreed,
great.
Rich.
I also ask that the city commit to never adopting the option that requires pre-registration for virtual participation in meetings. This is extremely undemocratic and puts up barriers that this method of access is torn down. We shouldn't adopt policies for meetings that are short-sighted, ableist, and anti-democratic just because we have a week here and there that have a lot of voices drowning each other out or many out-of-towners. Thank you.
Or people saying, fuck the council.
So we can, motion now is to take 11.
I mean, that's ultimately the problem, right? Is like it's great to encourage public participation, but ultimately you get all of Brattle Street and two Baba Booies, and yeah, nothing.
And
You did great, Yenny.
from what I'm hearing and what I heard from the public, this has been going on for quite a long time with various amount of meetings in ED, in different committees, and then back to us. I mean, I can't see what hasn't already been done is done. And so, I mean, I can't support it being recommitted. I wanted to go right just to a vote tonight, and we can move on from here. That's what I'm hearing from the people, that they want to vote it. So
you know what I never did?
personally,
Your small little pack that spells everyone's name wrong.
but I just wanted to voice my opposition to that. Thank you.
Sorry, buddy.
Thank you, Councilor Florio. Okay, so the motion is to recommit.
Robbing us of those
Development.
beautiful.
The yes vote would be to send to ED, and no vote would not be sent to ED. Okay, roll call.
Councilor Bergman,
No.
Councilor Calorio,
No.
Councilor GA,
Yes.
Councilor King,
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson,
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen,
Yes.
Councilor Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Rose,
Yes.
Councilor Russell has recused himself. Councilor Toomey, Councilor Toomey,
Jesus, Donna.
Councilor Toomey.
That's gonna get clipped, and we're gonna like this is gonna be like our Joe Rogan coming down. It's just that parody right there.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, the motion to recommit passes. It's 8-2.
Thank you. Okay, we are on petitions.
She's too busy watching our stream.
Take these collectively. 7A, refer to the planning board. 7B to 7.
Yenny, it's going to happen.
7F is amended for tractor trailer.
Yeah,
trucks
Mo, she did
only.
take a while.
Also as amended, and 7I to 7K, so the hearing date for February 15th, 2022.
Well, thank you very much.
Roll call.
Mrs. Steen.
Councilor Bergman,
Yes.
Councilor Calorio,
Yes.
Councilor GA,
Yes.
Kate's late
Councilor
tonight.
King,
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson,
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen,
Yes.
Councilor Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Rose,
Yes.
Councilor Russell,
Yes.
Councilor Toomey,
Yes.
and Mayor Petty.
Yes, we have 2 items filed by Gordon Davis. Request a manager review the city ordinances pertaining to the Human Rights Commission's ability to conduct investigation of discrimination complaints against city employees. And also, have city manager provide a written copy of the city's anti-discrimination policy.
Councilor Russell has definitely adjusted his lighting, but it's had zero impact on his skin tone.
Wait.
Nope. Agreed. He's still Zoidberg.
He's now. I'm getting like a Mr. Krabs vibe.
Yes, I just had a quick question.
Money.
Mr. Chairman. But the document that was provided by the
His
petitioner
eyes do look a little closed.
has some sort of an email from the city with some language with the letters B, C, and D next to it. I'm just wondering if is that a current policy? Like, what is that? I'm just trying to understand.
I think it's just a down angle on him.
Yeah.
Not sure what that stands for. Mr. Clerk, would you
Or he could be
know?
high as fuck. I mean, either way.
More power to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, Mr. Trainer, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Trainer, yep, go ahead.
I don't have that in front of me, Council, but I think it's I read it last week. I believe it is the current ordinance.
Through the chair.
You're speaking about investigations of any city employees go to the Mass Commission Against Discrimination.
Yeah, it says right on top, it says Human Rights Commission ordinance.
So
Yeah,
that,
I would, go ahead.
the ordinance, that is what the ordinance.
Yes, I do. It looks like a clip on.
Once again, city employees goes to the MCAD.
Okay, so there's nothing internal?
No.
Okay.
Or clip on mustache.
Okay, yep, that's on to the man. Just had a quick.
It's like a merkin, but on your face.
Regarding the
That's what this is.
internal process.
It looks good. I can't tell,
I
Brendan.
just want to make sure that we have that as well as relates to our employees. I know
Kate
that's something
sells them
that's
on her
purview of the
store.
manager, respect for
Ah.
city employees. But I think there's also a portion of this.
This is hard to do all at once.
The more education we have for the public, the better, so they know how to navigate what their concerns are. Thanks.
Thank you, so send those to the manager, roll call.
Council Bergman,
Yes.
Council Calorio,
Yes.
Council Ajay,
Yes.
Council King,
Yes.
Council Merrill Carlson,
Yes.
Council Nguyen,
Yes.
Council Rivera,
Yes.
Council Rose,
Yes.
Council Russell,
Yes.
Council Toomey,
Yes.
Mayor Petty.
Yes, okay, we'll go to communications to city manager, we're notified that.
No kink shaming on the
8.5 days
show
will
yet.
be held. That is the update in executive law to address and assess institutional and structural racism.
Do you guys have any predictions?
So we are on the city manager's calendar.
Oh, here we go. The man himself, Mr. Cello.
First one is non-city council
Hey.
confirmation.
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry I'm late.
We're just trying to figure out how government works while you were gone.
Oh, yeah? What happened?
We didn't come up with anything.
Yeah, well, they don't know either, so it's all right.
Council King or?
Yeah, I'll wait for the manager. I'll wait till after he's done.
We had someone call in and
These are
tell the council to
non-city
go fuck
confirmations.
themselves.
Two. We had two.
I know there's been some.
That's
issues
awesome.
Raised tonight. I don't know if you had a chance to look into it or not, so.
Mr. Chairman, I heard during the course of the day from some of the councilors who got calls about some of these accusations. And, quite honestly, I don't think it's fair to adjudicate them in public without the person here to defend themselves. I check with the police department who do background investigations before they send the names to me. There've been no formal complaints. There've been no investigations, and so.
Oh, this is about Trapasso. Oh yeah, a lot of people hate Trapasso, the constable.
Have complaints or concerns.
That could be a story,
they
Bill.
file them with the police
Had Chris
department,
Horton and a couple other
so
people
they can be
talk about him
investigated
assaulting folks,
whatever
being really
appropriate action
aggressive and
taking place, but
demeaning at
nothing in front of
evictions.
me from the police department
Interesting.
or
Yeah.
Any formal complaints other than stuff.
That's the guy that Mo
heard
Bergman
tonight,
wants
which
better
I-
training
We haven't
on
given the person a chance
medical
to
assistance. Yeah.
answer and refute. And
He
so I think
apparently
the proper thing to do
tried
is
to throw
not
someone
do
off
this
a
in
balcony head
public.
first, according to somebody in the thread from
File
earlier.
Complaints, let the
Dang.
police department investigate, and then we'll.
And people calling
deal
in
with anything
saying
needs to be
that
dealt with at that
he
point.
just he doesn't have to listen to them, and he
This is someone's livelihood. is to
because
move
I said
forward.
so is an answer a lot of times.
I agree with that. Mr. Council King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As these things were brought to my attention, I appreciate the manager's leadership on this. I think he's spot on with respect to nothing there. We're talking about people's integrity and character. But I do it did raise a couple of questions for me, Mr. Chairman, which was I'm curious what sorts of trainings our constables have. I'd like a report back on that. And also,
Constable isn't a city
the
position. If
information
I'm
I
wrong.
gathered, some of this stuff. there's some
Housing court position.
high stakes,
Who controls the constables?
Who constables the constables?
Yeah, right.
That are occurring or that are alleging to have occurred. And I just think for us as elected officials, as we, work with the
Yeah,
manager, as
Mitos,
responsibility
Dean,
and
everyone
stuff,
has
as we
constables.
work
They
with them, we
basically
have
are
contact
just
for all of this. So I'm
the
wondering if we
eviction
could also
people.
report
That's
back,
all they do.
on what
They serve legal
what-
notices.
there are? How does it play out? What are constables allowed to do and not allowed to
Reading
do?
a lot of white guys' names.
I've received these sorts of calls over, my 2 or 3 terms. And as the manager said, there may not be anything filed, but I could repeatedly hear about it and would like to be able to provide some context. And I think that would help all of us.
Police department
as we move forward, because
they're approved by city manager and city council.
Oh, okay. I thought it was.
And then you get an ID card from the police department.
We should all have an understanding of what the parameters are. So that's my asks there. And then with regards to the licensing commission, I'm just curious, just in general.
Bill, you want to answer this question?
Sorry, I was looking at the agenda.
No, you're totally cool.
If Betty Trust representatives are done?
Commissions and
No, it would just be Donna Calorio assumes the mayorship. But
I'm just curious.
Joe Petty would be, should he win the state senate seat, Joe Petty would be well within his
really
right
thinking of expanding
to serve as mayor as well for the continuation of his term.
Just wondering how you go about that.
Because you can only have one part-time and one full-time position, and the mayor in Worcester is part-time. So he could serve as mayor until the end of
how does that begin to happen? That's just a question, not a motion. Just curious.
Wally would come back on, or if he refuses to, then Bill Coleman.
Finally,
I think we deal
Right.
with it on a case
And
by
that would
case
be-
basis.
That would be
There's
great.
been a couple of tweaks that we've done to
Let me
they
adjust the
end up
light.
being formal reorganizations, which I submit to the council and the council takes action on, that in some cases have combined boards and commissions. So we used to have the auditorium board, we had the GAR hall board, and they didn't have
So
as
what are we
much
talking
work to
about right
do.
now?
So we've combined them into a historic and memorial committee that has a broader authority, and we grandfathered everybody
Does it
in
matter?
so that
How
people who
how
were
committees are
interested in
created?
this could continue to participate, but maybe they had more, issues to deal with.
A stork
than the
delivers
separate
them to
committees.
Ed's
So
house
kind of
in the middle of the
modernizing
night.
where necessary. And then we've tweaked in some cases.
I have
we've
my
actually shrunk the size
there's
of
an advisory council meeting next week on
that challenge is
17th.
getting people willing to serve on the boards and being able to get quorums in order to conduct business. And then in some
Any idea how many
cases,
people
for example,
applied?
tonight we have Green
No,
Worcester
I don't.
Committee, which is a brand new board.
I would
which has
be.
some
They'd have to be
new
really, really
priorities,
hard up on
opportunities
people
for
to let
folks
me
to
be
serve
on one of these things.
and participate.
It'd be
So,
really funny if they
there
were
is
just
this
like,
ongoing
go ahead.
evaluation
Okay.
of where our needs are, and
I guess you really need people really
reorganize in
bad.
some places, expand in other places, maybe pull back in other places that aren't as kind of current. So it's always a dynamic process. The license commission, as far as I know, has always been 3 members.
Sean,
tends
you're
to be
doing
one of the
cable committee,
busier
right?
Yeah,
commissions that
I just sent it in.
every week, and the meetings can be for a number of hours. So again, you've got to get people who are able to give that kind of time, which can be a challenge for some folks who have other responsibilities. So,
Bill, how many of Kate Toomey's ties do you own?
Jim and
I own all of them.
Diversity.
I've never paid for a single one because I just
I think there's
rob
been a
her.
lack of that.
I go into her house,
And
like
maybe that's something
Manson
that,
family,
this time we can
and
see
I
some
rearrange
movement
her
on,
family photos and take a couple
that would also
ties on my way out. So
maybe expand
you got it, Kate. I redecorate for you.
that.
And this is a great time to say that
a
this show
lot
is
of
sponsored
things
by
going on,
Craft Tea
in
Kombucha,
our community.
Worcester's local culture, and Worcester's other brewery. We love it, folks.
I think when folks come in, they really respect and expect diversity in all forms. This would be a great opportunity, a great face for the city if we could diversify that. So, thank you.
Yeah, Bill, we have Bob Barker here with us, who is not from Worcester and decided to call in and tell the council to go fuck themselves.
That's great.
Attempted to tell a story about a wheelbarrow going down Main Street and hitting a child, but couldn't. He kept laughing.
I think.
Did they get the call-in number from us? Did we go them into doing that?
I don't know.
One of the constables, and I wonder.
We may have provided information, but we did
these
not
folks are
tell him to do that.
out there in public and interacting with children and families and folks. I wonder too what the process is in regards to background checks, violation of human rights, allegations of violations of human rights, and if there's a way that we can get some clarity around that so that we know
Yes,
how to,
and fuck yourself.
respond to some of the allegations and concerns that were expressed tonight. It's important that we address them, or at least find a way to, I don't know, to put the public in danger if these allegations are indeed true. Thank you.
The council can ask for some reports, and manager can provide those reports.
Hey, what's this?
So Mr. Mayor, 8-1.
I'm not even gonna bother.
8-1B are to file as well.
No, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, and add that on the file, those items, correct.
Councilor Bergman,
Yes.
Councilor Calorio,
Yes.
Councilor Gia,
Yes.
So what's everything everyone think about Gary Rosen being the deciding vote against continuing to wear masks in the city, huh?
I know, huh?
Rose,
Pretty interesting, right?
Councilor Russell,
Dr. Rose.
The push on
Yes.
the school side is what weirds me out, where
Also, I recommend the
it's not
appointment
even
of Mary
their
Nip-
vote to take, right? I mean, you've
Yeah,
got
Tracy
both-
Novick on Twitter was like, excuse me, that's school committee business, you know?
Everybody.
But even before the school committee gets to rescind their order, DESI would have to rescind their order. I mean, you've got multiple layers of government before it gets to
Yes.
Councilor Gia,
Gary, which is
Right.
hopefully never. But
Yes.
Councilor Carlson,
Yes.
Councilor Ian,
I mean,
Councilor Rivera,
it's something Ed wanted to do, so it was just going to happen.
Yes.
You know?
Councilor Russell,
we
All
were
right.
talking about that a little bit earlier. I mean, that's I don't know if you caught yesterday, but on Radio
I didn't
Boston.
get the chance to watch it because I was doing the same thing I was
We
today.
have B,
Okay.
recommend the appointment of
Radio
Julie-
Boston,
Julia
WBUR
Capar to
had
the
Dr. Hirsch on
Accessibility
yesterday, and he did a really good job presenting like the city's
Bergman?
formal argument
Yes.
from a board of
Councilor
health
Gloria?
perspective.
Yes.
But
Councilor Gia,
even though he came across very logical
Okay.
and reasonable, it
Councilor
left out
Carlson?
all of the chatter that I think we all hear
Yes.
locally, that it's just
Councilor
about businesses and
Councilor
local
Rivera?
businesses and the
Yes.
impact on bars and
Rose?
restaurants. And
Yes.
that's
Right.
where a lot of the argument just gets,
Yes.
it sounds really cynical.
me?
Like to an outside audience, it might sound perfectly reasonable. Like
Yes, we are.
we're testing our shit.
8.4A,
Great.
Transmitting information, communication in response to council orders on rental.
you don't hear
assistance,
Gary in the
local
background
assistance,
just yelling,
eviction,
but it's good for business.
foreclosure, diversion.
Yeah,
And
right.
we're gonna send that to
It's-
economic
it wasn't
development
ever
for a,
bad. I
in-depth
don't know.
discussion.
Whatever.
Is that fine with everybody? Council Corio?
I just have one question, about one of the graphs. If it
And
can be
wait,
clarified
Bill
before the
Bergman,
committee.
we're allowed
On
to
page
objectify
2,
you
the city
and George
manager,
Russell as well,
the graph here that says
Yes.
and Joe Petty.
rent data is, so
Uh,
it says.
oh, wait.
I agree with Mo.
Ringo, we all feel this way.
I know.
Like, is they already gone through the eviction? They've already been finalized? It's the eviction process, or is it those in need?
I wish Donna just knew
I'm
something.
not sure what this.
She does not.
Maybe these
She-
data.
Yeah, sure.
It's unreal.
Or is anybody else on?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, and I think Mr. Dunn is on it. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first step in the process.
Yeah, the only thing
So
she's
it
ever
is-
confident about is
No
if there's
one's
an
been
angry
removed from
mob,
their
she
house,
wants to
but
be
they
in
get
front
the
of it.
letter and it begins
Right.
the process of eviction.
Okay, I thought we had a report coming that was going to, or maybe that's coming, the eviction data. I think I asked for it.
It's
last
the
week,
crazy eyes.
eviction Data.
You did, Counselor, and we noted underneath that chart that
A
all
little
we
bit
were
too old.
able to be able to provide.
Oh, I see it. Yes, I do. I see it. I'm sorry. My
No problem.
mistake. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's it. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Sure, Councilman Powell?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in this report on page 3, where it outlines a lot of.
Well, let's not get carried away
monies
here
where they
in
come
thinking that the
from.
mayor in
The
Worcester has any
12.5
real
million for the
power.
Department of Mental
right?
Health, rental.
If Donna
subsidy program, is
Calorio
that new
was the
monies
mayor,
this year, or
it would
has
basically
that
be the
been
same
monies
shit
that's been
with
there?
just
I know on a
a
lot
slightly
of these
more
others,
annoying person
monies,
guiding the
just
process.
curious through
Yeah, it'd be
you
less
to
competent
the state
meeting
manager,
structure.
or I know
Right.
that Mr.
Votes
Dunn
wouldn't
is
change.
on the line
The
as
votes wouldn't
well.
change. It would just be,
Question is that
yeah,
new
a less
money?
competent person
And then
overseeing
the
the
second
flow of the
question,
meeting. Because that's all the mayor
is
really, the mayor's like the
8.2
master of
million for
ceremonies,
housing,
the,
consumer
the person who
education
guides the
centers.
procession. Really doesn't have that much
That
agenda
says
setting
that
power
there's
either.
119% increase
More than your
over
average counselor.
pre-pandemic levels for FY20.
In a weird way, it could actually be
to
good
help
for votes
renters and
because
homeowners
currently
secure and
Donna just
maintain
keeps her mouth shut.
stable
And again,
housing.
unless she knows there's a mob that's going to back her up on
So,
something. if she actually had to speak her
8.2
mind on more
million,
issues.
Just wondering,
I think
where is
you'd
that
see a lot of the
education
council
taking place
rally
for that
against her.
0.2 million?
Mr. Dunn or Mr.
Wouldn't putting Colorio at charge at Mayor Leach and AstroTurf campaign to change the city?
Through the chair, this is Peter Dunn responding to the councilor. So on the first
I
question,
don't
we can
think
follow
that
up with
that would
additional
happen
detail at the committee.
if she would just had to assume like a temporary mayorship. If she won the mayor outright, then you might see that.
To the previous funding for
But
that.
she's so far away
TDMH
from having the political
program.
power
I think
to
it
do
might
that,
be a
so
new
it's kind of
collaborative program, but we can get confirmation on that and present that at committee. And then same thing on the
not big enough yet,
Housing
Yanni.
Consumer Education Center. It is a state program, so we can find out details as to like the physical location where that's taking place.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
If you look at the votes, Donna Colorio.
Okay, so send that to economic development.
Donna Colorio would fail in a mayoral campaign against.
Thank you, Mr.
most
Chairman. I just wanted to kind of just talk very quickly about some of the CARES Act funds that the city received and distributed. Again, I mentioned this a few times regarding some of our processes, and wondering if we can come up with maybe an enhanced way to reach the folks that need to be reached. We know that there's a lot of.
We'd love to have you, Bob.
From the city administration, from Mr.
It's a
Dunn.
fun
Where are
city.
you from?
Regards to getting emergency rental assistance out there. But there's also some challenges. Same thing with some of our
Bob,
small
you're
business,
welcome here any week.
particularly our minority.
Anybody
businesses,
who ponies up
where
and
run
actually
businesses,
calls the city council and tells
for
them to
some
go fuck
reason
themselves.
did not avail themselves
Friend of the
all
show.
the opportunities. And I
Mo
just
Bergman,
wondering,
settle down.
if there's a sort of plan in place to the administration in regards to everything that we're doing in terms of outreach, because I guess if we continue to do what we've always done, we'll always get what we always get. So I'm just wondering, we heard the clerk's office is doing some things and trying to engage folks differently. City council has done some stuff. I'm just curious if there's anything in the works to the administration in regards of how to, do maybe more varied outreach pertaining to this, but pertaining to a lot of things through the chair.
Yeah, and Mr. Dunn can jump in if he's got some other examples, but I know in the case of the small business program that
what a world that we could have some
together,
guys
60% of those grants went to
wanna get
minority and women-owned businesses in the city.
mean,
So
Some
if
guy
we
from
were
Phoenix who's actually
fairly
engaged, more
aggressive
engaged than like
about making
90%
sure that
of the residents of
particularly
the
small
city we live in.
businesses, maybe
Yeah.
businesses that didn't always
Thanks for popping in,
have,
Bob.
the wherewithal
you're
to
great.
put applications together. We worked with a lot of community partners in the case. of
Arizona
the
doesn't.
South
You guys don't have
neighborhood. We worked with the TDI
the time change,
fellow
right? You guys
who
don't
help go
daylight
business to
savings.
business and let people know who might be qualified for the program and help them fill out the applications. So I think we've used different strategies to try to get the word out and make sure everybody, including people who don't always
Because
have
what they're
capacity
talking about
to
right
attend
now is
bigger
incredibly
meetings or be part of networks that
Worcester
get this
got
word
so
out.
much statewide media
and I
play
think
for this mask
the
thing.
goal with this
for
program
the
was
someone
to
turn
use
him
the
down for the
existing
what thing?
network of
For the
organizations
mask
that
thing
are
yesterday,
dealing-
which is
that are
like a
already
much
set
bigger
up,
deal than what they're
that are
talking about
already
right
dealing
now.
with
We
folks
just haven't had the
have
time to
housing
talk about it
issues, whether it
publicly.
be Friendly House or some
It's
of
almost
our
more
other,
significant that
community-based
Worcester got all of this
organizations as
like
opposed to
statewide media play
recreating the wheel
for
here
the
at City
mask
Hall.
vote.
How to empower people who are already
When like
embedded in our
to my mind, it's really kind of like
and have ways to kind of
a
reach
moot
out.
point in some ways,
Obviously, there's
right?
been
Because
some
the
capacity issues
mask
here with some of
mandate,
the organizations, and
if you're a business
my
that's
hope
following
is
the
that
mask mandate,
conversation that'll happen
you're going
every
to
week
continue to have a mask
is,
policy.
all right, we
Right.
still have
If you're a business that
$1.2 million.
throughout this entire time has
How can we
flaunted
rework
the mask
this in a
mandate,
way that gets
you're just
that
going to
out
keep
to
doing
some of
what
the
you've
folks
been
on
doing.
that page
The
2
only
list
difference really is like
that
City
need the
Hall
help.
and the
Again,
library,
understanding this
Mhm.
is block
and
grant
not the
money,
schools
so we
because
don't
that's
have
different.
as
They can't even
wide
step
a
in on that. So
flexibility as the ARPA funds do. So
it was just sort of a weird
but
decision
even
to
with
put it
those
on the
constraints,
table,
can
right?
we
Like,
retool those
why
remaining dollars
even
in a way that gets it to
bring
the
it up?
people that need it? And
I think that we're looking forward to that
That's what
conversation.
I can't wrap my head around.
And by extension, with the
Why
community.
do you even
that
like
explanation.
put it on the
You know, I
table?
think the one
What do
thing
you
that I've
gain by
learned,
making it an issue?
over the past few weeks, when we've
And
been
an issue
talking
that's so
about
splashy that like the
evictions,
Globe writes
eviction
about it and
moratoriums
WBUR
for a
and
period of time,
WGBH, you know?
the needs of
What do you gain
landlords,
by
the
doing
needs
that? I
of
don't understand.
renters.
I don't understand the
Yeah,
impetus
we're
for
absolutely
even
in a
putting it
crisis here in Worcester. And
in
I
play.
think across the
And
Commonwealth.
again, like
with
from a
regards to
local
lot of this
perspective, I mean, as a
exacerbated by
mandate, it went wholly
the
unenforced,
pandemic.
right? I mean, I know there are a handful of
You know, and I think
instances
this
where,
particular
the license commission, but really for bigger
that we
issues
had
involving
before
the
us, we're looking
pandemic,
forward to seeing that
and masks were just a
development,
part of it. For the
really
most part,
speaks to our
you can go to
ability to
Target right now, and there's a lot of
do
people
things
without
at
masks,
once.
and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you're an employee there, like I was an employee in a restaurant, I am not telling someone to put their fucking mask on unless I
Right.
have to.
I'm looking forward to the
It's dangerous,
spirit
you know?
of that dialogue in economic
I think
development.
if you look at it through the media lens, though, too, like it does seem like in general, most aspects of media are in favor of eliminating mask mandates.
Councilor
Like
Colorio?
even in the more what we'd consider like liberal sides of like cable news and whatnot, that seems to be where people are heading. So anytime you have a big city pop up, I mean, that's where we don't give ourselves credit. Like we do have a little bit of influence.
Yes.
Enough of the bigger
Yes.
cities in Massachusetts over the last week and a half have announced that they're rolling back ends to their mask mandates. It puts a little bit of pressure on Boston, and
Yeah, and the vaccine passport thing kind of withered in a lot of places that original pledge to do it with Boston.
8.5A, what's held under privilege?
And I understand why people are mad, right? That Worcester did this and that it passed the Board of Health. And I totally understand that it would have been a different vote had Gary Rosen not been on the committee, right?
Right.
But
And maybe we can do citywide painting too, once in that public works.
I don't know. Maybe it's like kind of a fatalistic sort of perspective, but I don't think it was doing much anyway. You know?
No, I think you're right. And if you look at any polling that's come out since the end of January, I mean, you're hovering right around 70% of Americans don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
They just don't care. And I think you're starting because everything's been kicked down the road from the federal to the state to the local governments. You've just got more local governments trying to manage whatever is left of public relations.
I know that
Right,
if I was
yeah.
to be asked to move and take all my things and stuff like that, I wonder if the 7 days. Hello.
But it also at the same time feels like catering to a crowd that we don't have to cater to, you know?
No, I agree.
Like it was a strange decision.
Okay.
Politically
I think I might have named the wrong
and
number.
timing wise
Sorry
and
about
in
that.
all of it.
So we're going to do
I don't know.
8.6A and 8.6B collectively to this.
But anyway, 8.6A and B.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Colorio?
Yes.
Councilor G.A.?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
Mayor Petty?
Yes, we are at 8.8A, transmitting information communication of the Keep Worcester Clean.
This is that tweet from Jenny.
Follow that, Councilor Russell, or do you want that?
Refresh me. I didn't see the tweet.
Yeah, okay.
No,
Roll
so I
call.
just put it up. It says, "This is what happens when I'm home alone and calling a city council meeting for 2 minutes." She sounded distracted on the call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
So St. Possums, you're sort of right.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Toomey?
No, with the spreading to the towny scum
Yes,
thing.
and we have
Where it's like
8.9A.
you're capitulating
transmitting
to
communication of the Save the
a
Date.
crowd that's never going to be
2022 Arbor Day celebration scheduled to be held
and
on Friday.
you have no power
April
to
29th, 2022.
and
File that.
you never had
Roll
to,
call.
you never could. So
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
it's like,
Councilor Colorio?
Yes.
Councilor G.A.?
was it a response to the
Councilor Carlson?
like vaccine passport proposal that got processed to death, or
Yes. Councilor Russell?
I don't know what it is. I'm confused by the decision. Like,
I would be curious too how much of this
we
on a
have,
local level is
transmitting
coming down
information
from the
communication
congressional
officer, Teresa Miller,
delegations
oversees
themselves, where
open
going
space
into
and rec
midterms.
plans
I mean,
and
you look at
parks.
take a look at the 30,000 foot view.
I mean, Parks Committee?
oh, very interesting, Brendan.
You know,
I hadn't thought of that.
Ottawa is at a standstill in Canada. The same is kicking off in Australia now with massive vaccine mandate protests. I'm starting to get the sense that just in general in Western democracies, like leaderships are generally terrified of the potential of everything going off the rails. And I know it sounds crazy and wacky, cynical guy, but like there's a lot in the air right now when it comes to midterms go the wrong way. Both the House and the Senate go to Republicans. You get 2 years of nonstop impeachment hearings on Biden, who's already hovering at 34% approval rating.
Yeah,
and then nothing good comes after that. I don't. Part of me just wonders how much of I know there's genuinely a legitimate concern about the economy. The economy always comes before people. Great, that's who we are. But secondary to that, there's going to be an actual concern that lunatics are starting to be the only voice that's heard.
Some people
Yeah.
say,
I want to hear this homeless discussion, especially since Calorio brought it up.
And
And
so I have a few
I
questions.
apologize because I didn't have time to read the report, but I really want to hear what the manager says on this because
Good. So
I just hate the way that
administration to
Worcester
Dr.
deals with,
Castile. In your professional opinion,
homeless
what do you think? We had an increase of what was it, 42% in the unsheltered homeless population, which was concerning. And I think people have kind of been concerned about that. What do you think is the reason? You list some reasons, but what do you think is really the number one reason in this?
I think that people are not comfortable in congregate settings. And so COVID is part of it, but also the idea of living in a congregate setting where you have to intermingle with people who are there who you may not get along with, who you don't feel comfortable with. And so being outside on your own or with whoever you're with is probably more comfortable.
So in your, through the chair to Dr. Castile, do you feel there's
That's awfully
I've heard this
reductive on
term
her part.
used, and I don't know if it's
She's
a
better than
professional term, but I hear it a lot, is that there's a culture
Yeah, that was a
among
really
the homeless. And there are those that, like you said, don't want to be in a setting that want to be, in an encampment. Can you just tell
Blaine,
me if that term is
that was really
correct,
frustrating.
or
Yenna, you're
what
so
that
right.
term
That was
means?
dismissive. That was bullshit.
I'm through the chair. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand the question. What can you tell me again? You're thinking about what people are thinking and why they want to live in encampments, or that's a feeling that people want to.
Well, it's more of the culture of the
hold on.
homelessness, that they have there's a subculture there that exists, that they have their own ways of wanting to do things and not being in shelters. And do you believe that this is one of the reasons?
No, I don't think so. I certainly think that there are a lot of issues to homelessness, and whether it's substance use, whether it's mental health, or any medical issues that can create homelessness.
Is she asking,
I
do
just
people
think
want
that,
to be homeless?
People are trying to be in an environment where they feel comfortable, where they're not being thrown out of a shelter. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it does happen that people may be coming in late or certainly in some, because not enough beds, they have to line up to be able to do that. And so I think that's it. I think people are looking for, I think people will accept housing if housing.
Whenever you hear Dr. Castillo talk about this stuff, she never brings up the absolute misery
we're trying to do through the city. But I look at that as the major issue, is that if we were to, as a community, work together to provide.
And the fact
housing
that
for
we
people
tried to get rapid rehousing going, but really haven't.
I think that process of having people who are unsheltered would accept that.
I just have a couple more quick questions. Is there any way to identify the people that are new to the homeless population, of where they originally came from?
Oh,
are
fuck
they
John.
just being from evictions in the city, or are they from the suburbs that don't supply the proper supports that?
Hey, Jenny.
Is there any way, or has
Sorry
there
about
been
your
any way
house.
kind of identify where the homeless, where the homeless population is coming from.
Can we tag the homeless
So a lot
population
of
so
the
we know where they
homeless
wander?
population are coming
It's
from
like
different
Donna Clorio,
areas in our
just
community.
ask it, because
We've
that's what she's
estimated
getting
that
at.
probably 60% of people in the shelters
did
are
it tell
probably from a
Space?
neighboring community. Most communities do not have access to all the medical care, addiction care, mental health care that we have in the city, along with shelter
So
care.
Jenny, we
and
may
those are
have
the
been
things
responsible for one
that we
of the fuck the
provide. I think
council
that
calls.
homelessness is
God,
a
you shouldn't have
fluctuating
done
community,
that.
and they
We
come
didn't
and
tell
go.
him to.
You didn't encourage
That was
him.
of his
They're
own
still
accord.
homeless, and we
Oh
still
man, that makes it look
treat them,
bad.
you know, in the appropriate way and give them the services that we have in the city.
Yes, thank you, and I do agree with that. I did
But we have a new
also
friend from Phoenix who's thinking about moving to Worcester.
to
So
respect that
we have that going
staff
for us.
gave to the
He's a Phoenix
individuals
rogue.
in there. There was a lot of
Hmm.
really good in good environment, positive environment.
Mo
Mo
Bergman
Bergman has-
always has my back.
The encampments. How many do we have in the city, and do they increase in the summertime?
Dr. Steele?
Through the chair, yes, they do increase in the summertime. You know, if you look at the data, you can see that the unsheltered population is for this year is 247. And that number can vary, and that's through Worcester County. And so, you know, for us in Worcester, when we look at well, that was the total homeless count, which is, here's the unsheltered. We have up, it was 132, which has a little bit of drop from, that was for 2020, a little bit of drop from 2019.
That was Mo
but those
Bergman
were,
crying.
quarterly counts that are done through a different agency. Most of the data that we have does come from Central Mass Housing, and they look at that information that's being submitted to them from the shelter. So the unsheltered population comes from the HUD, who does a yearly number count, and that's where we get the count.
A lot of people think
Elliott does a quarterly count.
more
And the
conservative
last one they did
government
was
types. If Worcester is too good to the homeless or the
one
unhoused,
for this year, and the count in 2020 was 100.
then we're just going to get more, right?
So how many encampments are there?
So we can't be
It's
much
all
better.
When you look at the
than
unsheltered number,
just
that could be
surrounding
any of
town,
that. It could be
because we're
people
gonna
who
just
are out in
get all of
encampments. It could be
their
people who
unhoused
are,
people. It's an awful
living
meal.
in, I don't know how to call it, not hallways, but in people's areas. People
how they
could
look at
be, what do you mean by people's area? Sometimes in the back doors of people, you'll
The
find
numbers that
somebody
Dr. Castile was just talking about, Bill, is the thing
they
that
could
I'm
be
finding
anywhere,
interesting. The time frame that
in
they're
our
looking at,
community. I think
where
that
they're
we are
showing a
aware
marked decrease
probably
in
around,
unhoused
maybe
up until
40,
2021
encampments that
thereabouts.
we know of.
Over the same time period, nationally, there's been a marked increase in the unhoused population. It seems odd that Worcester, of all places in the country, would be able to report a decrease while the rest of the country is showing an increase in something as substantive and significant as an unhoused population.
I would say that thinking that your unhoused population is 100% in Worcester all the time is super rigid. Like the same people that are in Madison Pass will sometimes be in Worcester and
if someone was to ask me to
and
move
vice
and
versa.
bring all my belongings, sign up for services and
And
stuff,
it's
feel
a
like 7
really
days is
diffuse
not
thing
enough,
to
and
try
what
to
about an extension
track.
to 15 days?
It's not
As well as, what is the
very
plan
easy
B
to
if you
track.
can't find them a
And
place to go to? What is the commitment to finding them adequate?
earlier in Ed Augustus's tenure,
Especially if it
he
passes
tried to
taxes,
redeclare homelessness over. Remember when
Right.
Worcester did that like 10 years ago?
First of all,
So
I'd
that might
like
be
to say
part
that
of it.
first, it's a tough decision
Just the
to say
numbers
how long. We
Well, I
want
think she
the,
just nailed it though, which is where the city's numbers come from
whether
the
it's a
shelters.
business
So it's
or
really just
whether
reflective
it's,
of how many beds do we have.
somebody's, place
That's
where
essentially
they
going to be the
live,
number.
and it
Yeah.
would be
And then
in
once a year,
their,
HUD comes in,
immediate
and somehow
surroundings. I
HUD
know,
does a census
people
that
in-
we're not
in,
necessarily privy
in certain
to.
communities have complained
But if HUD is
about
coming
that
through in
because
February, that
doesn't
might not
interfere
actually be
with the
indicative of the
quality of life, and I
population
think
that
part of what we have
is
to
here
look at is that quality of
for the
life
majority of the year.
for communities and
No, because
especially
you have
the
to understand that, like,
communities that are suffering with this issue, that we make sure that we also take
I don't
care of that because people need to be feeling safe in their environment.
you have a
Businesses
couch to
is another
crash
piece
on
that it's hard to say
for
to
a
somebody
certain
that it's
amount of
okay for
months, then
somebody
you
to do that.
don't.
And
Then
that's not to say
you're in
that
the shelters, then you have somewhere else to stay.
you know,
Then you
I
move
can sympathize
somewhere.
and I can
You're
understand
not
the
like
feeling and regarding how many days we do that. Ultimately,
spending
to me, the amount of days that we give somebody, whether
years
it's
at a
7 or
time
15 days,
Mhm.
doesn't
same
change the position
encampment.
that
Right.
that is not the answer, that they should be
So
homeless. That the
it's
answer
really
is
like
that
it's way more diffuse than like
that's
it
the
like
most
the
appropriate
yearly
thing that we
census
can
could
do. Meanwhile,
possibly provide an
we
accurate
try to
number.
work with the people that are there.
Of course, Maddie
From
can't
our
say that because her whole job is dependent on the
quality of
numbers
life
going up
team,
or down.
they go
Right.
out and
Just
certainly
rely
try
on
to
that.
get people into if we can
And
get
she does
housing, we get
care
them
as far as
housing. If
I
we can get them
know. I
into
mean,
shelter,
Oh,
we
totally.
get them into
Yeah. No, I don't question that at all. I just found the numbers themselves to be
every which
interesting
way to
because
try to do that.
it's really
Work
only been since
alongside all the other
2016
nonprofit
on a
agencies
national level
who have
that
outreach workers
we've seen
to
nationally a
do the
a
same.
massive increase year to year in the
for
unhoused
that.
population.
And so
Right.
I agree with you that, housing is, our ideal, most permanent solution, especially now during COVID, and that we don't want our shelters to be overcrowded and to continue the spread of COVID, as we mentioned a few weeks ago. I know that a lot of our homeless populations are actually connected to services, and, they have caseworkers, they have housing vouchers. And so if this is the case, what should the city be doing to create a pathway towards, housing for our constituents? And that could be either to Dr. Castillo or the city manager.
nice question too. Really nice question.
I know I'll let the city manager speak. I know we have a task force, a homeless housing first coordinating council that has been meeting for the last number of years, which has developed 100 or is in the process of developing 103 units, and maybe the city manager can talk more about it. But I'm also of the belief that as a community, they are all our people, and as a community, we should be able to raise and raise money, put an importance to homelessness, and we should be able to house people. So not only is the city doing something for homelessness and trying to develop that housing, but as a community, we should be able to raise the money and make that a priority and importance to house our homeless community. So, Mr. Manager, I don't know if you want to tell about the program.
Not
Yeah,
specifically,
I just say
Feeney.
we've tried to work on a
No.
dual track here. We've tried to expand shelter opportunities.
Which
as
is
a-
another part of this that I feel like is
immediately off
easy to
the
overlook in
street.
Worcester is that
So
we have
we
a very
funded,
traditional old school shelter
Carver
system
House with the lift program that created
that I don't think a lot
15
of people who
beds for
found
women
themselves
who
suddenly
have been
unhoused
exploited
today
through
would even know where to
sexual,
look in terms of resources.
sex trafficking.
Right, right.
We expanded funding at the Veterans Inc. and asked them to add 12 low barrier
important.
beds there to take some of the pressure off the smock shelter and reduce the population there. So, understanding maybe a smaller setting or a different setting for some of the homeless population would encourage them to come out of the encampments and the public spaces and get them into immediate shelter and then hopefully ultimately to permanent housing. We've done the same thing with Hotel Grace. The city of Worcester funds Hotel Grace's entire
Thanks for hanging, Bob.
to the tune of over $800,000 a year to create those additional shelter beds 24/7 throughout from October 1st to May 1st. Again, to keep people out of the elements and give us an opportunity to engage with them, get them out of the street. We've worked with SMOC on expanding their shelter over to the MLK Center. So again, depopulating the Queen Street shelter, which is obviously a little safer during this period of COVID. But then we are in the process of building permanent supportive housing.
But they've been saying this
Street,
for so long.
is expected to be online before the end of this year. That will be run by the Worcester Housing Authority. It'll have a residential manager who works there in supporting the folks who are living there and whatever programs and wraparound services they need. Off of Stafford Street will be the first community in Massachusetts to build tiny homes for the homeless population. Again, understanding that the
homeless population is not a monolith, that different types of housing are gonna
Matt,
be
I love that
necessary for
idea.
different folks, and we're
You
trying
just
to
said
create
that.
that
They're
diversity
actually doing
on
that.
Winslow Street. We'll be working with SMOC to create additional housing there. So we're doing everything we can to work on the immediate issues, expanding shelter opportunities and diversifying the shelter opportunities that give a chance to work with, again, women, veterans, others. It's not just one size fits all, and then creating actual permanent housing with the supportive services. So we continue to do that.
Yeah, you got it in there,
Continue to
Matt.
try to kind of engage.
You definitely did. Nobody can take that from you.
Population. And as Dr. Castile said, this Housing First plan that we developed with a number of community stakeholders, I chair that meeting every quarter. So we're very much engaged in reviewing the data, then going over what we're hearing from
Because
the
it's
outreach
called
teams,
something else,
going
Tom, in
over what we're
508.
hearing on
It's different.
progress for creating these additional
They're not on
beds,
wheels. Those are
in the
just
community, and
spheres.
we talk about all sorts of issues, and even our outreach team, Evis and others, any given day they'll be, here getting a birth certificate for somebody and then going over to the registry of motor vehicles to get an ID, which can be a barrier in order to get them signed up for benefits, et cetera. So we are really
I
trying
think it's
to meet folks where they are.
self-contained.
And do everything
So,
we can to take every barrier down. that
Ed just
prevents them from
kind of unwittingly touched upon
dignity and safety and permanent.
the whole point with this and why you have people living in encampments
And the commitment to this work.
outside.
I would also like to see a
But I'll
report
come
back
back
with feedback from stakeholders and agencies and consulted by folks who are actually directly impacted by homelessness and analysis of best practices and possible alternatives such as sanctioned encampments, low threshold, and supportive housing as mentioned in the report.
Sanctioned encampments
as
would be
we
great.
Start working towards permanent solutions. So I would like to see a report on that if possible.
Cool. Great, dude. That was awesome. Two's fucking kicking ass with this item.
Yeah, hell yeah, too.
We have Council.
Yeah, this becomes a far less difficult conversation to have when you insert a little bit of compassion.
Right.
Thank you, Mr.
Into the
Chairman. I
mix.
took some notes.
So I really want to hear what these people say, and so I don't want to talk over it, but I have a lot of thoughts on this issue. So maybe I'll get back to it when we're talking about something more.
Really outlining the quality of life issues, the business.
Yes, for sure.
issues, and
Way more than your
business
average
issues.
council. Yeah, you're right.
I think that's the lines that we toe. And when I think about this population, I've talked before about getting to a place where we understand how to share our public spaces with the unhoused in a way that makes sense for everybody. And as my colleague mentioned, I think evidence-based principles are what we need to rely upon. Our unhoused neighbors, in order to effectively lower the barriers that we have with resources, require a client-centered and trauma-focused approach. And I think that sort of approach with our unhoused neighbors will result in having them inside often for a bit longer, as long as we're doing it in a caring and humane way. And I think, as we lead by example as a city, by the folks who are on the front lines, the Quality Life team, our outreach team, Dr. Castile's team, the folks in code and police that respond, I think it goes a long way. But I do recall over the summer, we talked a little bit about the unprecedented numbers of folks who are working and living in shelters, who are working and unhoused. And the other thing that I think that is reflected in here, in this report, is the importance of specific location outreach coupled with strong coordination. I know that
Bill, they never said why they broke up the Walmart encampment, right?
About this issue and that actual day. I don't know if you remember that day,
that's
we already
too long
meeting
to
and pulling in
explain
these
right
folks, trying to coordinate the outreach with all of the stakeholders.
They never said why they broke up the encampment when they did. Why they decided to do
it. What the evidence-based research
it.
shows.
But there's good reason to think about why.
And
Yeah,
encampment
that's it.
operations can re-traumatize those folks.
Unless it's already been mentioned, just feel it's important to mention the Shirley Chisholm for president button that Christian is wearing right now. Pretty badass.
Shirley Chisholm.
Shirley Chisholm, yeah.
Unhoused neighbors sometimes return in days, sometimes return in weeks. And I just had a question to the through the chair, to whomever. Have we found that? What are we finding with respect to how encampments move and how they return? And have we come away with any new sorts of approaches relative to that when folks aren't in a place where they feel they can avail themselves of a resource that fits what they need?
That's a great question on Christian's part. And I don't want to talk over all this because it's important, but like
I think he's muted, but I can.
the way the city breaks up encampments is just counterintuitive to their entire state.
And let me see if I remember this correctly. I think that people who I think it's a moving group of people who may be here today, may go spend a couple of days at a friend's house who may decide to put them up, may go to Boston if they can figure out how to get to Boston and spend some days in another city. I think it fluctuates. I think, and I think the most important thing that we do is that constant.
Donna, you know why.
Continuing to follow up with the people and having that contact with them. We always talk about that.
I don't think so.
No matter what the
Brendan King has no interest in running for mayor, right?
Homeless
I
is that.
I would assume he does.
Really?
They need to, believe in us that we're there.
That would be interesting.
And that's a process that takes place, and it may be,
And based on the last couple of elections, the votes would probably be there.
much longer than that.
To at least make a strong showing.
Talk to them and be there for them when they need you.
Oh shit,
and
that would be
making
super
sure that
interesting.
they're okay and checking up is I think
Apparently
the
he
most
has Mo
important
Bergman's
thing that
vote.
we can do during that time. And so that's building the relationship, and hopefully when we build that relationship, we can ultimately get them into treatment. We can also ultimately
King
get
wins
them
if he
into
runs.
housing, whatever the need may be.
Hands down?
No,
So I think
but
relationship
I think he
is
does.
the most important thing.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. I agree that increased engagement opportunities will
King
result
agrees.
in increased positive outcomes. And it goes to the relationship. And I don't know that, having folks, looking at things like, looking at, what do you call it there? Warrants, folks that have warrants that are like, we're if we are, other candidates have really looked at, okay, let's see if these folks got any warrants out there. They're picked up, they're kind of herded together. Then with a day or two, they're out. I don't think that sort of approach works. I'm not suggesting that's what we're doing. I hope that we're not. But what I am suggesting is that we need to have a humane, caring approach and continue to have a humane, caring approach. And my last question I have, Mr. Chairman, is really about encampments on public property, because I know that's a challenge. It's a challenge everywhere, but with regards to what I read here, there's some stuff going on with the private sector, but I want to focus my questions on the public property. And I guess
They are sending Brattle Street back to economic development,
we
Jack.
have a word assistant in transitioning, I guess is a word they might use. I call it moving, but transitioning folks off of public property away from or clearing encampments and vacating them. Do we have a responsibility legally to ensure that we're moving them to a housing opportunity? Through the chair.
That's such a.
Mr. Trainer?
Mr. Chairman, through the chair of council, I'd like to be able to step back and take a look at that and provide an answer, Counselor. I don't think it's a yes or no question.
I could answer that question.
And I asked the question in the spirit of just making sure.
And the short answer is no.
That we are just clear on what we're doing. And I think when you look at the impacts on the businesses, on quality of life, on the individual themselves, and all the things that come with that, we should continue to try to be as comprehensive as possible. I would ask, this is not in the form of a motion, but I would ask that we take a close look at that 7 days. I'd like it to be a little longer, maybe 14. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what the number is. I don't know how we came up with the number 7, if there's some research that supports that. You know, are we piloting that? You know, what are we doing?
I wish
How
King
are
would
we
be a
going
little
to
bit
do that?
more direct
And
with
it's a
what he's
challenge, you know,
advocating for.
during the election period, I was at various businesses throughout the city, and folks are getting fined for the folks who have found a place to stay there. And then, you know, we have those folks who are just unable to be sheltered for whatever reason.
You're into your second 5, too.
Thank you. The last question I have is just regarding our shelters. I know over the years we've had a number of concerns regarding some of our shelters. And I'm just wondering, as relates to that, has it come across the radar of the administration that we're continuing to have issues at our challenged and problematic shelters in the city?
What do you think he's going to say?
Go ahead, Maddie.
I'm sorry. I think that there have always been problems. You know, it all depends on who is there and how they're handled. I think that
No, these people
what we've
love
done,
being without
during
a
this
house.
Past year has truly been to work with SMOC and looking at you know, certainly their overdoses, certainly the handling of overdoses, just an array of things. I know we brought, for example, BSAS. We worked with BSAS to bring folks, pharmacists, to help them train with respect to how to administer medications. You know, we certainly have gotten a lot of donations for them to be able to do that. We're working with our cardiologist at UMass to be able to bring in, you know, CPR and to be able to have a defibrillator there. But also there's a team of us who are working together. We have Elliot.
Oh, welcome
Brian Bickford
back.
From Elliot, our team, who sits on a weekly basis.
What's
with,
happening?
SMOC to go over their policies and making sure that we improve the policy.
We're talking
about the unhoused.
Take
unhoused
I
population.
call it humanity into
How we solved everything?
be treated
Yeah.
in an appropriate
You
way.
remember
And so that's
when we
been
declared
part of our
homelessness
work.
over in
They've
Worcester?
been, very receptive in improving those pieces.
Mission
and
accomplished.
Coordinating and working with us in that process. And the same with you know, anywhere. If we're talking about, you know, hospitals who may discharge somebody coming out of a hospital that goes directly into a shelter. That communication from a hospital to the shelter with us.
Well, we
just
do
to
have
try and
cops evict
improve
people from
communication, and I think you know, I do believe
every
that
homeless
communication
incident
and
that
understanding
catches
and
the public
working
eye.
together is what changes the process. So I think that there have been improvements in that. I think the women's shelter does a good job. I think we've had issues with women being in congregate settings that were not efficient, and this has been, you know, that's been an improvement in that. So I think we've done a lot of changes in shelters to be able to provide. It's not the best. I think that there's things that we're still missing. One of the things we're looking at is truly
Yeah, but
medical
not with
care and bringing
guns. They're
medical
gonna get
care
like,
into the shelters.
I don't know, push
So
sticks.
working with the different organizations to bring medical care, that they should have a primary care physician at the shelter to straighten out their meds and to be able to stabilize people. So those are work in progress, but certainly have made a lot of improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know my time's just about run out. I'd like a report back on the SMOC stuff, what we've done. Continues to be a report, concerns to me there. And, you know, they do some good work. And there's concerns that maybe there's some inconsistency at times as well. The other thing is, two questions. One is when folks, when we're taking belongings that are being removed from a encampment, where is it kept? What's the process to return them or for them to receive those back? And lastly, the other question I have, because I know my time's up, youth homelessness is a concern. We know we have it on our buses. We have it in different places as a social worker with young folks up to age 24, 25. It's a major issue. I know there's barriers to those folks also being in congregate care settings. I'm just wondering if there's any specificity we have for our youth.
Yeah, but he wants it on the record.
Maddie or Dr. Castile?
Through the chair, I think through youth homelessness, we have, I know that the school department is trying to work with that. I know that we've talked, we've had these discussions in the past. A lot of the youth homelessness certainly has, you don't see as much in the streets per se, but they are doubling up. They are doubling, tripling up. And so
It seems
that's
worth
an
noting
issue
that Dr. Castile looks significantly more exhausted than she did a couple weeks back when we were doing our We Beat COVID PowerPoint presentation.
the data regarding that. But it is,
Yeah.
it is certainly.
Well, she's been through it this week.
And, that's where we are. The next question you asked me was about where.
Yeah, where is it kept and how do they get it back?
So I think, I know that there's a place, I don't know if the manager knows the place where we store them. It's someplace at DPW, I think, where we store the.
A dumpster at the
everything
DPW.
there. And because we're in contact with people and we know if their stuff was removed, we will always get it back for them. So our
That
quality
is
of life
such
team will bring
that
them
is
back to them
such
wherever they're going to be.
That's great to know.
Certainly never that we're going to keep them. It's
That is-
they have up to a month to be able to get those back, and we will certainly reach out to them.
Oh yeah, a whole month.
No, but
Mr. Chairman,
that's
just
such a
order
fucking
motion, just getting whatever the schools are doing with regards to youth homelessness, a report, maybe the administration can reach out and
because
provide that.
you take somebody's tent when they're not there and you're clearing out a homeless encampment. You don't know whose tent it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so you have to go. First of all, you have to know that the city is keeping it somewhere. Second of all, you have to prove that it's yours. And third of all, you have to make sure that it doesn't get sorted in with all the other tents that got thrown in the back of a fucking pickup truck. Like, it's such a fucking lie. Like, I talked to a lot of homeless, unhoused people for that story I wrote about the Walmart encampment. And all of them just assumed they lost their stuff. They weren't like, "Oh, I want to go down to the DW headquarters and pick it up." Like, you can just tell the council that you're giving it the option, but the practicality of it and the way that it works on the ground is they're just going to chalk it up to a loss and try to get some new stuff.
Struggling with their own internal
It's just a
issues
fucking lie.
right now. That's kind of what I hear.
And the
Issues
truth
with
is so
staffing,
far away from
wages, COVID, people moving away from that type of job to do a job
sort
where
of
they can kind of work from home, or is it that
reality
the
being
need
portrayed
is too great.
because it's a silent
The reason why I ask that
population
because I just
with so
wonder
little
if there's
political
a
agency.
way for us to
You can get away
continue
with
to
saying
support those
a
stakeholders
lot
and
of
offer them
things
recommendations
that
on
aren't
things that they
necessarily
can do to
true,
kind of
but
clean up
sort of
their own shops in a
check.
way. Not to suggest that we're experts and not to suggest that we're not doing it already. But I'm just curious, is the need kind of beyond what we collectively can do together?
There's
or
like
is it that
a
people are
dub
having their own challenges
thing
as it
happening
relates
here with the
to
audio.
remote stuff and things like that through the chair to
When I talk?
Yeah.
No, when Sean Rose
Through the
talks,
chair,
or this whole stream
I
probably.
think it's a
Yeah, they're all.
combination
It's
that
behind on
certainly
the
if you look
scroll.
at most
Yeah.
nonprofits, they're certainly having a shortage of staff. And I'm talking, they're losing, like lost 200 plus people from different organizations. So that certainly is an issue. Through Health and Human Service and the Quality of Life team, we have an outreach
Okay, bye,
group,
Sean.
who meets together to really talk about what they're seeing and what is out there. I agree that at times they may not be available all the time, but they are a closed group that does work together. I think that there has been issues in the past about again when we move an encampment and when we don't, and I think the main conversation that I always like to bring back to that is that we don't want people in encampments, that we want people in housing, and how do we do that? And so I think all the agencies together to figure out how we do this. And I think that together we can if we
That
do
is
that.
such a
But
bullshit fucking
we
cover.
certainly are in contact with all, and we call everybody with any issue, and we meet on a regular basis to talk about what everyone's doing. That's people from Open Sky, people from SMOC, people from the vet shelter, people from APW. There's an array of outreach workers that we work together with.
we don't want people in encampments, so we go down a week before we pick them up. We offer them a stay in a temporary homeless shelter, or try to connect them to services that they've already been connected to at some point in the past, and have probably had some bureaucratic hurdle that does not allow them to access them, or they have a housing voucher that no landlord in the city will take. And then if none of that works, we'll just take your stuff or tell you to get packing, and you can try to build a new encampment somewhere else before we find that one and tear that one down too. It's like
and not reactively.
this thing pisses me off so bad.
We're shipping them off to Pawtucket, right? That was part of the Red Sox deal.
Yeah, right.
Stakeholders for us to kind of assess and maybe put our heads together about how we can better support them at the
And
same time.
the unhoused people that I talked to for that story just said that, like, when their encampments get broken up, they just go back to square one and they find a new encampment somewhere else. Like,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to start
Brutal.
by saying thank you to Dr. Castillo. You started this conversation.
so much of the reality of this is not
that all folks that are currently in our shelters or
We can ask.
in the street or encampments or in the back of their cars, as we usually hear, or in their cars, are our neighbors, regardless of where they come from. And we have a moral obligation to serve and protect and find housing for all of them. I also want to reiterate that I'm very grateful to the city manager for allocating the 20% of ARPA. I know that some of that money is going directly to chronically homeless initiatives. I want to also say, thirdly, that when we talk about chronically homeless individuals, an invisible subcategory is families that have disabilities, families that struggle with mental health for a long time. I don't want that piece to get lost in this conversation. You may not see them, but they're there. They're in the midst of our community, and they call our agencies every day. I also want to frame this conversation in terms of in our last council meeting, Councilor King brought a resolution to support Black Lives Matter and to remind us what's happening during Black History Month. I want to say that one key and striking thing in this report, something that's not new to folks that have been on the ground for a long time, is that this is also a racial justice issue. Two of the populations that are disproportionately impacted by chronically homelessness are Black and Latinx. And I want to add also trans and gender nonconforming folks. These are the folks that we need to name in every conversation that we have, whether we are in community meetings where we see opposition to permanent support housing projects, or whether we're having conversation with neighbors, businesses, and people who may not have a full understanding of who are we talking about.
Knows a lot, and knows everyone in the city that knows a lot,
and supporting the administration,
head and shoulders
and supporting
above.
the permanent supportive housing projects, that we make sure that we name who are we talking about, and that we break the stereotypes and the stigma and the hostility that often the homeless.
Yeah, we're all at tell stands here.
I just want to commit and have this council recommit to the idea that when we resolve chronically homelessness in any way, shape, or form, then we're also recommitting ourselves to racial justice, and we shouldn't isolate and divorce those two issues from each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Great. Councilmember
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I want to say
Get ready for the
thank you
dumbest
to,
thing you've ever fucking heard in your life.
Castillo for this report as well. But I also want to especially thank the Quality of Life team, the crisis intervention team, neighborhood response folks. Everyone's doing yeoman's work on this issue, and I know how hard they've worked.
She's thanking the people that clean up the encampments, right?
Yes, that's what she's doing.
And assist in every way. One of the things that
That's the quality of life
struck
team.
me
That's what
over the past couple of years as I've run into people and talked about some of the issues and some of the people that are out there. And the one that we haven't, I don't think, touched on yet.
She's talking about cops right now.
I've heard of several older folks who have a lot of physical needs. And are we working with any of the skilled nursing facilities? If we have anybody that has a need like that, or if we address that?
Do we have the name of a
Through the
good
chair,
veterinarian?
We work closely with Elder Services, and actually, I want to say that we also, the senior center is also very responsive and helpful to helping us when we have somebody who is elder. But we will do that. I don't know if I'm sure you know about the hub, which is
Yeah, have we thought
that
about
every
getting people
week,
who can't afford an
Elder
apartment,
Services is part of the
private
team
health
that's there,
insurance?
and that communication is always relayed so that they can make that connection and follow up with that person. And most recently, we have a social worker who is now following up on all the cases. Just not connected, but also how are they doing in the next number of months to make sure that that person actually settled in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you.
too,
I
Mesa.
have previously asked for a report to identify the costs, and not just for Department of Health and Human Services, but all departments and outside agencies, in a report on what people have done and what's worked and what hasn't, so that we can take a look at taking those best practices, the things that are actually working and moving forward. So I'd also like to find out what any outreach or conversation we could have with the other cities and towns. I think you mentioned at the beginning of the report that about 60% of the people were from outside the city. And so, I think there needs to be some discussion with some of the other cities and towns that if they're not providing services, then, just like the children who come in from other cities and towns, if they're staying in our schools, there's a contribution back to the city of Worcester.
That's right. We need to make
So I
Auburn
just
pay
think
for
it
the
would be
wall.
helpful, the budget perspective as well.
What the hell is going on here?
So again, thank you very much for your report. And I'd like to, I had asked for that other report. I'd like to have that come back as well. Thank you.
Dr. Castillo?
So through the chair, I'd like to say that the 14 largest cities meet, and one of the issues that, and so those are the gateway cities, and one of the issues that we talk about is homelessness, and they are all struggling with homelessness. So that's an issue throughout every large city. And so we compare what we do. We try to discuss all the issues around it, but very similar things. And they actually look onto us as being a model.
The whole
of
mentality
things that we're doing in the community. We just
behind
got
that question of asking what the towns can do.
People, to be able to discuss what we do for homelessness. So, and for the same token, the same goes back and
If you don't ask that question, if you're not thinking, oh, we do enough.
I think you know that
No.
people not necessarily stay in the area where they live and they go elsewhere. And so it's the same idea.
Good, thank you, Dr. Castillo. We're all set. Doctor, I just want to thank you for the report and your whole staff, what you do. I'm sorry, Councilmember Carlson, I missed you, sorry.
Oh, boy. Yeah, here we go.
That's okay. Thank you.
Everybody always forgets about me.
I have a couple of questions through the chair to the city manager. The tiny homes on Stafford Street, Mr. Manager, how many homes will be done up there? I know you've given us a report on those tiny homes on Stafford.
But I haven't read it.
But help me with the number of units that we'll have there.
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't have it in front of me. I believe it's 16 with a kind of a support building that people can get together and do activities as well. So I believe it's 16 separate units plus a support building, but I need to double check that number.
That's okay. And a follow-up question through the chair.
No, that's how many homeless people we have.
The Lewis Street, again, if you could remind us of how many units is that?
I'm gonna use my pass and ask Dr. Castile if she knows off the top of her head. I know the total is 103 that we're creating between the three sites.
So I'm sorry. So the three sites is the Stafford Street. Is that Stafford Street, Lewis Street, and what's the third location?
Mo Bergman, if Brian was here,
Winslow?
I would totally
And you said
Photoshop it,
that's
but I'm running
100
everything
and-
tonight.
103 units of supported
Next week.
housing.
Remind me next week.
That's specific for the chronic homeless population.
What is she getting at with this?
So the
Like-
report that we did was
I'm
the need
sorry,
to
Mo.
create, unique units for the chronic homeless population. So those are and the high definition of chronic homeless are people who've been unsheltered for a year continuously.
So would that be for families as well, or is that individuals?
Individuals.
So it's for individuals. Okay.
That's what he
and
just said.
Hotel Grace, which we fund to the tune of $800,000.
Why is she
we
doing
said,
this?
from May to October, how many folks are they able to shelter during that time?
Kid.
I think it's 50 individuals.
60.
60.
60.
What are you getting at?
So if my memory serves me correct from earlier in the presentation, we believe at this point we have 132 individuals. We're not talking, again, we're not talking about families, we're talking about individuals. And I believe
Sounds like she's trying to break down the door
Pacillo,
costs for
said
the
that
city's
number
cost for
was
housing housing
approximately
people.
132.
That was 2020 data. That was 132.
Okay. So are we thinking, just so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, are we thinking that these 103 units that we're hopeful to get online, are we thinking that those 103 units would be hopefully to take care of these 132 individuals?
Dr. Lucille, Mr. Manager?
Oh my fucking God.
Not exactly. I mean,
Oh my fucking God.
there are folks who come in and out of homelessness during the course of the year. And then we have identified, at least when we put the plan together, as that was the number of folks who were chronically homeless, who have been homeless for over
Welcome back, Bob.
And so we tried to create a number that we could get to
We
what
feel
they
the same
call
way.
functional zero for the chronic homeless population. The goal is through our opera dollars on affordable housing and other housing production to be able to take care of the needs of the non-chronic population, the folks who have episodic, periods of homelessness for any given reasons, and have the ability to use the shelter as a very quick transition, triage, if you will, and then move them as quickly as possible into the appropriate housing situation. That's the goal, but we need to reduce the number of the chronic homeless population, who tend to be the most needy in terms of supportive services, health issues, etc. And
That's what it sounds
those
like.
are the ones, going to Councilor Toomey's questions earlier, that are costing all of us the most money, the most visits to emergency rooms, the most issues in the neighborhoods, etc. So we're trying to and the city did accomplish that about 15 years ago. They had a housing first strategy. They did get to functional zero with that population. But I think the lesson that was learned was that you really need to stay on top of it. And that's why we do quarterly meetings, which I chair, to stay personally
Astute
engaged
observation,
with all
Yanni.
of the stakeholders, where we talk about data, we talk about all these issues, so that we don't kind of rest on our laurels, if you will, and see that population creep back and all the kind of associated issues.
Council?
So one follow-up question. Is it only Hotel Grace at this time, May through October, that we're able to use for our homeless population that's out there during the cold weather, or are there other places right now that
Oh my God.
you take folks?
This is the most stupid fucking line of questioning I have.
Shelters, the Queen Street and the MLK on Chandler Street. We also have expanded the capacity at the Veterans Inc. And again, many of our shelters are not what they call low threshold, meaning that you have to be sober, you have to be, and we know, again, meeting people where they are, we need some low threshold shelters. That's what the SMART shelter is, and that's what we've asked to create some beds at Veterans Inc., again, to bring the census down and provide for kind of a different setting for some of our homeless population. And then we've expanded the capacity with Lyft and created 15 additional beds there for women. So, we've tried to depopulate as well as diversify the options for folks.
Bryan having a good
as
die.
we try to keep people out of the elements and then engage with them and get them, obviously, to the permanent housing solution.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take those, Council Russell.
She wasn't going anywhere with that.
She just figured out how many beds we have.
Holy shit!
Thank the administration for this report and for the
Annoyingly
information that they're providing to us. I had a couple of what I hope will be quick questions. The first.
Where can I
question
find
is,
some fish?
through you, Mr. Chairman, to the manager or to Dr. Castile, whoever has the answer. But is the city of Worcester staff? I mean, I think the city of Worcester staff, your outreach team, Mr. Manager, I think are doing God's work out there. They're doing, they're doing reaching out into this population and trying to.
I've heard the same rumors, but
people into shelters, get them other assistance that they may require. But besides our own
exactly
staff, are any of the nonprofit groups or any of the even for-profit groups, anyone else doing that outreach that's actually going out into these, trying to find encampments, trying to find folks that are without.
Yes, it does, Curtis. Yes, it does.
Is there any other groups out there besides the City of Worcester employees?
Yes, Elliott Social Services. They've got.
Bill, you want to answer this?
Outreach workers who this population, and again,
views on that.
Them where they are, whether it be in an encampment or whatever location. SMOC has some outreach workers, and a number of other partners. Age Project Worcester.
Right. I'm gonna try to fix my
a lot of outreach again, whether it be through the needle exchange program or other things. And as was talked about earlier, all of it was with the goal of engaging and developing a trust relationship with that person, and then ultimately being able to use that relationship to get people.
Send them an email, Mo.
Assistance that they need. So we do have a number of folks who are out there, and through our quarterly meetings, and then Dr. Castile's team meet with these folks on a more frequent basis, and they do share notes and information and triage and what are you seeing and who's talked to this guy this week and who knows him best, and kind of try to coordinate as best we can to be as effective as possible.
And really, my last question, Mr. Chairman, is a follow-up to that. Is just what is our strategy when folks that are homeless won't accept assistance? They won't accept our assistance for whatever reason. They don't want to go to a shelter. They don't want to accept whatever referral we're able to provide. What is our plan, or what is our strategy?
Mr. Manager, or Dr. Steele?
So I think that nobody nobody says that they want to be homeless. And I think part of the problem is that people
That sounds a lot better already.
and so
How am I doing?
That's fantastic. Why don't you do this
So
all
much
along?
better. Oh my God, so much better.
Cool.
Whatever it is.
I don't know why I
so
didn't.
The goal is to continue to outreach and develop that trust.
Sounds good, though.
With the
It sounds
folks in the
great.
community so
All right,
that
cool.
They will decide. And
Yeah, I have my
it takes-
I have my
it
podcast set up
takes,
here now.
to be able to
Could you
develop
play something for us?
that relationship and
Play a
ultimately
podcast?
that's
What?
the
No,
goal
I mean,
that we
like,
need to
instruments.
to really work with people with mental health
Just some
issues,
background music. I mean, this is
addiction,
really
so
like
that,
this is incredible sound.
Even Curtis agrees. You sound fucking great.
Mr. Chairman, that's what
Wow. Okay. Cool.
In the
All right.
support
Well,
we're giving for
now
addiction,
that
that's basically what I was looking at.
George Russell's
looking
questions
for
are stupid.
follow-up on. What, in the field,
All my
where
sound equipment is back in my house because my last day at Ralph's Rock Diner was Friday. So
professional
I have good
opinion
sound here now.
There's a reason why they are hesitant to.
Sorry to hear that.
Make available
No, it's okay. It's good.
the resources that you're
Um,
offering.
But now I
What's
do.
what's our offer?
Now I do my podcast stuff in here. So I have my
certainly there
podcast set
are
up,
things
and I
coming
guess it works good with the
online.
stream. So that's
There is
great.
This is
a
fantastic.
mobile
Sick.
methadone clinic. There, there
we
will be a
benefit.
there's a mobile clinic
Yeah.
now providing medical care, but also
This is
to
essentially just the
provide
council
addiction care
acknowledging
to
that they've been
people
paying
who
zero
are out in
attention to the city's
encampments or
efforts
on the
regarding
streets,
the
so that we can
unhoused
start
population
engaging with them.
for
Yeah.
decades.
Certainly looking at
So
the
like
medical
this is
care
an
to
issue
make
that
sure
like
that we
I
meet the
have
needs that
done
they have.
a good
Mental
amount
health
of
care is part of
reporting
that
on over the
process
years,
also.
and I'm not
So,
some expert, but
that's
all
what
of
we
these
try to
questions
do,
are
certainly
shit
through
that just
our
me,
office
as someone who
and,
is
you know, there are
bothering to pay
others in the
attention,
community,
knows the
recovery
answer
coaches,
to.
which are people
And
with
for
lived
someone like Maddie
experience who
Castile,
go
who's
out into the
intimately
community and relate and
wrapped up
talk
in this
about
issue,
that
they're fucking
experience.
insulting.
And
They're
it's
straight up
something that
insulting.
people feel comfortable with, and
So
so that engagement with a recovery coach is important.
I don't even know why they're wasting her time, and
through
they
our
should be shamed
along with
into
navigators,
like
and certainly the
understanding that the questions they're asking are totally fucking stupid.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just belie that they don't give a shit at all.
The public health, Dr. Castile, like Councilor Russell said, thank you for your staff. There's not many of you, and I know there's a lot of people out there trying to help, so tell them thank you on behalf of the council.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the opioid epidemic, which is the same fucking problem. And we're going to talk about it like it's something different. And everyone's going to ask the same old stupid fucking questions that they should know the answers to already if they're a public servant.
Yes.
It's going to be
5
great.
hours left on this thing.
I'm
thought
going
we
to
were
get
heading towards the end.
I'm going to get madder and madder as this goes on.
Yes.
It's going to be really fucking bad.
Yes. Show me.
Yes.
Yes.
We're nearing the
Information-
end.
Information communication of the number of opiate fatalities in the Worcester between 20 and 21.
Oh my God.
Colorado.
And she did this. Like,
Thank
she's
you,
the one
Ellen,
asking the
for,
stupid questions.
Supplying us with this report. It was very insightful. As we all agree, and we've talked about on the council all the time, is that our substance abuse community has been hit really hard, especially in the 2 years.
Our
of
substance
this
abuse
extreme
community.
isolation. That being said, I have a couple.
Our
of
substance
questions,
abuse community.
Shut
the fuck up.
What a fucking lunatic.
Which is the
She wants to be
drug
respectful.
prescription overdose types. What I was looking for, and I think I know the answer, but let me ask you it because you know this better than me. Is where is the reference to fentanyl? I know fentanyl. I know I know it's included in heroin, and it's laced in other drugs. So there's no exact category for the fentanyl. Is that correct, Dr. Castile?
Yes.
Through the chair.
It could be included in everything else that's here.
It's a fucking opioid, you idiot.
Could be part of that. It could be unspecified or unknown. I think what people know is that they're taking heroin, but as you said, it's all, it could be all fentanyl or laced with fentanyl.
Okay, so the other concern I have, you don't have to comment on this, I just want to voice this, is that we had that increase of 35% in that 50 to 59 year old category. And I just looking at that, I can't
Go to
but
the military.
feel like
Well, that's the core of this. That's why this is so awful. Is because there's really no incentive right now for good people to get involved.
But that being said, I have
That's the key issue to solve.
and then So, am I correct in?
No, probably not.
19 and 2020, we had a 23% increase in just fatalities. I'm just speaking on fatalities right now. And between 2020 and 2021, we had a 37% decrease in fatalities. Is that correct? Do I have those numbers correct? So that is pretty, that goes along with basically what we saw in the nationwide deaths in fatalities in 2020 was like a record soared at 93,000. And that was, directly due to the pandemic and the isolation. So it's good to see though that Worcester's trending downward in 2021. So that does.
Yeah,
give me
Curtis,
some
you're right
hope.
that this entire line of questioning
One of the things
is
that
completely oblivious to what Worcester as a municipality could do about it, and she's not even trying to get there.
staff, or I don't know if
She's
it's
just talking about the
or
issue in the
the
abstract.
Worcester Police Department used any of the FTS, the fentanyl test strips, to detect fentanyl, the kits that they give out through the.
Oh, they didn't use it on their own coke, right?
Dr. Castillo?
So first, I'd like to say just one thing, just from your prior statement, that even though we have seen a decrease in overdoses and an overdose mortality here in Worcester, I just want to still emphasize that it is a huge problem in our community.
Yeah.
And again, we had a 23%.
You have to pay for some of my podcast episodes because I'm a
death
fucking
of
grifter,
people,
baby.
From overdoses that were Worcester residents that were had an overdose outside of Worcester. So it all is it still is a major
This is
issue
depressing.
in Worcester, and we will continue to do to work on that. I think fentanyl strips is not something that, and I don't know if the
We're
not
it's
readily
insane.
available in our
We're
community
covering.
now. It's something that
Thank you.
part of
But
Bureau of Substance Use wants
we're
to get
covering
more available,
territory
not readily available
that we were covering in
Yeah,
like
and the reason why I mention that
2016,
is because
2017,
I do believe,
when this was first
you know,
established
step up
as
a day
like
and
a
say,
novel
you know, I
public
want
health
to OD
crisis.
and I want to, you know,
And
take my
like
life. I mean,
Donna
people who use
Colorio
drugs are
isn't
addicted to
doing
drugs,
this with any sort of
and I
policy
believe
proposal in
if they
mind.
hadn't
She's just
had access to the fentanyl strips and they could test the drugs they're using, then they would, in some cases, make a decision that I'm not gonna take this heroin because it's laced, or I'm not gonna do this because it has.
yeah, I know, but
I know
just
there's
when it was
been,
identified as
some
like a new matter of
programs in the
public
state.
health concern in the state of
So I'm
Massachusetts,
gonna
you
make a
know.
motion that maybe.
Which really, if we're honest with ourselves, was just a shift in demographics, right? It
Yes,
became a
yeah.
problem that was most
access
prevalent
to
in
using these
suburban
fentanyl
white
strip
young women, and is when it became
police
noted.
department and their
Right,
Worcester's been
exactly.
struggling with this since, at a minimum, the early 70s.
sales program and see if there's any
So-
programs available that, pilot programs that maybe we can be.
I mean,
part of.
what Mo just said, and I know it's a joke,
Also
but
to,
Donna once again is making the argument for
also say that
full
I wanna make
legalization
another
of
motion that
all
we should have,
substances,
Update, this report was extremely.
and too stupid to realize that's what she's doing.
Interesting, and it gave so much data that if we could have.
And Brennan, this goes back to a point you've made often
have an
on
update
this
because I think
program
it gave us
that
a lot of information.
like a lot of these
I mean,
counselors,
I'm not
Donna
going to
included,
get into
George
the,
Russell, Kate Toomey,
maybe
seem
we'll
to
get
have
into
no
because there's a lot of
idea
positive
what
happening
the
here,
extent
with the recovery
and limit of their
program.
power
I'm a
is.
huge fan
Right.
of
Like
someone that's
they
already
think
gone
that if they
through it,
just talk
they go
about
out there
a
and they can
problem
identify. I think that is the
in
number one
such a
best
way that they're
way
helping,
to,
you know,
attack the program,
and they don't
problem.
understand
I think
what
we
they can actually
need to
accomplish with their
focus on
position.
we have enough of
Right.
it. And I
And
think
this is
people
exactly
do
what
this,
Donna is doing right now.
just give so much of their heart and soul into the program.
She's just talking about a problem that's been a problem for
Sheriff's
decades.
Office for,
Mhm.
you know, the reentry programs. I know you've worked with the sheriff's office in this.
In a way that's not
helping
new
people
and
to
it's
get
not
back
putting
into
anything on the
compliance.
table. And we're going to be
You know,
no
make
richer for
people
having
love
had
it
this
so they get
conversation.
back out there and they start using again.
Um,
And I know that there was only a small window of
No, I mean, and
opportunity
you
to
can't expect everybody to
a
be
lot of credit.
knowledgeable about everything that's
So,
happening in
and
society
also
all the
to
time.
oppose
But
the
like, I
national
just personally find it insulting that
So, in
Councillor
respect
Colorio
to
seems to be learning
You're in your
about
second five, too.
the matter of opioid addiction in the United States now, right in front of us, like live.
Right, right.
Know about that.
to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, so as far as, can you just speak briefly on maybe if you have other insight, Dr. Castile, through the chair, as to why that increase between the 50 and 59-year-old, we had such an increase?
Probably for the same reason that you're seeing a major lift in
I think that
suicides
addiction is
amongst
something that
middle-class
I
white
probably
males of
tend
that
to believe
demographic,
those
right? Like
numbers would
that.
be higher, and they're just not part of the process. I think that you know, addiction has been something that's been going on for for years. And so it's whatever, how people deal with their problems and their trauma and all the things that have happened in their lives, and how do they try to cope. And so I think that these are all age groups. I think about most of the people that I treat are people in this age group. I also think that when I look at the numbers of this particular age, of the ones that I treat, have certainly been incarcerated most of their lives. So it's been generational. It's been incarceration. That's how we treated addiction. And so, and truly has affected mostly communities of color. But that's the majority of the people that I see is in that age. And again, the 30 to 39. But certainly, it's sad to me to see that there are people at that age who've been struggling all their lives. Median age of when people start using drugs is 13 years old. That's most of the people that I see starts at 13. And so imagine that they're still 50s and that's still been part of their lives.
Well, thank you again for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Please, no one else talk about this.
Is that everybody? I think we got everybody. Counselor King, Counselor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really hope this goes to. I know
We'll get back together one of these days, Rich.
As a master's level clinician is going to do great work with this report. That being said, we often talk about.
My favorite Mike Benedetti moment of late is when he had to begrudgingly acknowledge that I might be doing something good.
This report indicates.
I love that on the post-election 508 pod thing. That was great.
Worcester is most impacted.
He was like, I really hate to say it from the bottom of my heart, but I think that newsletter might have helped with the election results.
Since Bill's not one to shamelessly self-promote unless he's getting paid for it on his Substack, anyone paying attention who hasn't read his Intercept piece last week on the nurses' strike, go out and find that immediately.
Yeah, thank you. I worked really, really hard on that.
It shows. That was really, really well done. And you talked about some of that on the show here. But
yeah, I gave a little.
I really wasn't aware of how deep it went with the national org to actually.
Yeah, I was really lucky to work with an editor at The Intercept that super cared about that story and wanted to make sure that that piece was well done. And we spent like the better part of like a week and a half on it. And I hope that it helps. Because honestly, the more I've learned about
the chair,
that, the more nervous I am about that vote.
If you, when we look at the Black community, you saw that
but
last year, this year.
But it's also a great example of like we're reinventing the wheel on 40 plus years of addiction in Worcester in front of us right now. This is a council that historically treats itself as labor friendly, and you would think that a story like that would be the topic for discussion.
Right. Yeah, and Christian King wrote an op-ed for the Telegram that was nice. And I think a couple other councils have spoken about it, but it really would have been nice to see like resolution, something of that. And for Christ's sakes, the Telegram, like, just fucking blew it with that story. Like they wrote like a little 5-paragraph brief, and then the Boston Globe wrote a story about it that was also bewilderingly fucking silly.
Certainly more.
So yeah, I'm like basically pretty fucking awesome. I'm just kidding. But
no, flex, kid.
I
funding this year
didn't. I've been following the strike since the beginning really closely, and I have great contacts, and immediately read that there was something really sketchy going on with the decertification vote, and dug into it and talked to the right people and got to the bottom of it, and turns out it's really, really sketchy, and part of big money, old school conservative America's interest in destroying union power once and for all.
Right.
And
able to do that
anyone
when people leave one of
working
these
with national right to
sites,
work
there's
at
somebody
St.
who's
Vincent
following them
is
through the
nothing but a
process. They're
useful
able to get
idiot
jobs,
that's
they're able to
voting
get
against their
housing,
best
and
interest
then again,
or
support
working
them
against their best
through all
interest,
of that.
thinking they'll be rewarded by a company
Have three
that,
questions that
should the
could
contract get
specific questions
decertified,
are in this report.
will have no
The
incentive at
harm
all to
reduction
reward
talks
them for
about
anything.
the need to
But
sustain and increase
you know,
reduction.
just the general thread here on the city council and with the way people are interpreting the St. Vincent story is that left-wing power in America is so non-existent that people don't even know that it can exist and don't trust that it can exist. And my next newsletter article I want to do is on how the new progressive coalition of the city council seems like it's taking a lot of L's lately. But the L's are sort of W's in that they're proposing things that this council would have never ever proposed before, right? So it's shifting the conversation and it's exposing the real barriers to change and to doing things in a better way. And I think it's easy when you're just watching like the
Resources for Justice has put
I don't know what you would call it, the minutia of these meetings, to understand that
they have different programs throughout Boston, throughout Massachusetts. So they have.
We're working with a different political dynamic here, which if it gets a majority, if Christian King's wing of the council gets a majority, things would drastically change very quickly in Worcester. They're just one or two votes on any given issue short. And the people who are on the other side who are opposed to it are resorting, like Mo Bergman has, to being pretty like outwardly and flagrantly antagonistic.
Right.
And that's not a great political look in the long run. And that's somebody trying to like cling to a power that they're afraid they might lose when they resort to doing things like that.
Prevention
So
are places again.
it seems depressing, but this is the way that change gets forced through initially. It just can't like get bummed out on it, right? So it's almost good to like sort of not pay attention unless you're doing something, which is not the best message for this show. But
they have been having conversations again to try to figure out what are all the things that we need.
Keep in mind that this conversation would never be happening if Donna Colorio didn't ask the city manager for a report on just like general overdose data, right? And this is like mind-numbing, right?
Just for our education purposes, you know, and I've always been a champion of.
But it fits in very neatly with the previous conversation about the unhoused, right? Like all Donna is telling me is that for whatever reason, you don't have people in your life that allow you to relate to somebody who's struggling. And
right.
Just as a lifer in Worcester, like that I find mind blowing. Yeah. Like, how can you be here and not just see that, but experience it? Maybe not personally or direct, but at least directly through the people in your life that you care about.
That we've been meeting,
or just have a shred of fucking empathy.
You know, and
yeah, really. Go have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
On behalf of all of our citizens.
Thank you. So we'll send out Council Rose. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, Rich, you're right that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Castillo, for the report. And
so
it's great to see us.
The center of the council,
of these
and even like Bergman and Colorio and your more right-wing, but still like center people are, for the most part, going through the motions. Like right now, we're just going through the motions right now. Like nothing they're talking about is going to lead to a policy change or a shift in direction or more money being dedicated to the issue. They're just spinning their wheels. And that's, the council has historically seen their job as just like getting up there and spinning their wheels and getting into like petty inter-councilor squabbles. Mike Gaffney was the exception in that, where he actually tried to move the political fucking
just curious.
direction of
what,
the council, just in like the
do you
shittiest
have
way
any
possible.
thoughts on, some things that we should
Christian
continue to do
King,
or continue to prioritize?
to and Itzel
So just
are trying
not
to
so much
move
about a
the
question
council
about, you know,
in
like, how
a
can we,
good
do
direction that it
better
hasn't been
circuit,
moved
but
in
more
a very
holistic,
long
like,
time.
how can we
And you can
continue to
see the
preserve this,
institution resisting the change with
you know,
like every
preserve
fiber in
these
its
members
fucking
and continue
being.
to have them trending down on that age group and
Like
some
they're
of
so
the
allergic to doing
people who are
anything with
not
their
very
position because
successful,
they're just
you
so
know,
afraid
youth division or whatever
to
it may
like
be. Just
actually exert their
curious your
authority
thoughts on that.
to dictate policy direction over the city manager.
Through the pit.
But
So through the chair.
they just don't have a majority yet.
Certainly
So
programs like Recreation Worcester are exactly.
that's why
what
we've
we
been
need.
taking all these L's.
I think they give youth the ability to interact, to be part of a community, and not to be isolated. If I had mentioned that, you know, the majority of people that I see have started using drugs at the age of 13. These are people who have experienced lots of trauma in the families, maybe a history of addiction in the families. And these are the things that we need to focus on and really be part of the youth so that, you know, the social and emotional learning, the trauma care, to be able to deal with the people, the kids in the school system and be able to give them that support system is important. The after school
Kind of sounds that way, Yenny.
programs through Recreation Worcester and the other agencies.
Well, yeah, because the way that Donna filed these items is talking about homelessness and the opioid epidemic in separate items
with people.
means we have to have basically the same fucking conversation twice.
To take care of in that sense.
Where these dipshit counselors are going to be like, so do we have any programs and do we invest any money in combating this? And the people who actually know or care are like, yes, this is how. And we're just fucking spinning our wheels.
Well, I think you're right, Bill, that it does look like some of the newer progressive members have taken some L's over the last few weeks. To be fair to them, that's part of the problem of this council is it's historically only reactive. Right, like we're having a conversation about opioids right now. For anyone that enjoys reading the annual DEA report on drugs of concern, we should be having a conversation about methamphetamines in Worcester, right? Because that's the thing for the last 5 years that we've been seeing a slight, not huge, but uptick in the Northeast. But when it hits here, like these folks are not going to know. If after 40 years, these folks can't figure out what to do with opioids, these motherfuckers aren't going to have a clue how to react when meth is the rage in Worcester, which it will be.
Yeah. And
I don't know what the solution to that is, right? Because again, the system is set up to be reactive, and like, that's not Attel's fault or Tu's fault.
That's why I think the eviction moratorium, the vaccine mandate, and the gas station moratorium are three great examples of policy proposals that would shift the direction of the city. And we saw in Mo Bergman being actively antagonistic to those in sort of a very lawyerly way. And then we saw like George Russell being like reactive and like allergic to the idea, but not really understanding how to talk about it, and then just fumbling over himself like an idiot to try and sabotage them.
Right.
And I mean, it all worked, but it just like they're not like prepared to have actual policy debates. They're prepared, like Sarai Rivera does, to just sort of blather about a consensus point, like she's doing right now. You know, like she's just talking like, oh, this is like she's literally talking right now about how people are addicted to opioids. Right. Like this is not productive in the context of creating new policy, changing old policy, steering the city in a particular direction. She's literally just fucking talking.
Right.
And that's what's so annoying and frustrating about this.
Whole system again. And so right now, the situation is, this is what's been happening to this individual for a time while they were.
Like, who is she educating right now? What is this anecdote about somebody who struggles with opioid addiction serving?
Right.
You know?
I feel like I feel like we're still having.
I can't even bring myself to like try to be funny and joke about this shit right now. Like this is just like such an annoying thing to have to sit through because we're not accomplishing anything right now besides watching some just some fucking Worcester guy. Like all these counselors are just some guy, right? Like talk about how they personally feel about the opioid epidemic.
Right. That level of education, and what are we doing to continue?
Yes, we do. I would love to see a good challenge to Sarai Rivera.
And the tragic intersection between these last two conversations is we talk about the visible thing that makes us uncomfortable, but we don't ever talk about the root of the problem. When I was working at Spectrum Health Systems for a few years, and I mean, it was at a period of time when SAMHSA came out with some data showing that it's over 70% of folks dealing with opioid addiction have at least one instance of severe childhood trauma behind them. Everybody else has severe trauma as an adult. And it's basically the entirety of the addiction community is self-medicating in regards to some form of unresolved trauma. But if you bring that up within the traditional medicated assisted treatment community, they don't want to hear that because that's not how the model works. The model is self-sustaining based on medicated assisted treatment, not on actually dealing with the trauma that folks that has gone unresolved, that people are struggling with and don't have any outlet for.
Right.
There's nobody on this council that I feel is really in a position to comfortably be discussing that. We're talking about a broken society, right? Like we're talking about failures in capitalism, failures in Western liberal democracy, right? Like all these things intersect in a.
But how refreshing would it be for someone to come out with a quick preface where it's like the addiction issue is something that is far past the power of a Worcester City Council or the Worcester government to fix.
Yes, right.
But here are some things I think we could be doing better.
Right.
Let's have an argument about what we're doing and if we could be doing it better. And this is just wasting Maddie Castile's time when it's her job to take whatever meager budget she gets from the city manager every year and figure out how to use that to help people who are dealing with addiction and housing issues. You know, that's her job. And her time is just being thoroughly wasted, reductively explaining the basis points of what she's doing to complete fucking morons right now. But she just has to do it or she'll get fired.
There's a whole lot of
it came up in the comments. Yes, Nikki Bell is in fact the bomb.
But overall, prescription writing has decreased, and it is,
Yanni, this is a good question. Bill or Brendan, do you have anybody in districts 3 or 4 that we know that we can convince?
And most people
3 or 4, yeah.
Opioid medication, I'm saying, still writing for a small amount, and you can give
that. I wasn't going to say that, but Troubler, like that's the one issue I've always had, and you know I've got a good enough relationship with Nikki where we've had that conversation off on the side. But yeah, it is something that does get uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of folks that otherwise would be super supportive of everything they do.
You know, again, I still continue to see it as very concerning.
Yeah,
I can appreciate that, and would love to see this.
But
back into public health because it's something we can, we continue to talk about, and we're
that shouldn't. I don't know. I don't want to get on this whole rant.
No, it's not my place to actually.
It's not my. It's not my place to talk about that. But
public health.
I think that you got to acknowledge good intentions and where they are, and understand that disagreements on certain philosophies shouldn't prohibit collaboration, right?
Absolutely.
That's a huge fucking problem with the left wing in America, is that it's like a weird game of one-upmanship where we can't build fucking coalitions because there's a purity test for everything.
Yep.
And yeah. Anyway.
And that lived experiences far outweigh my position from the peanut gallery.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just talking.
The administration.
Never. Yeah. No. Whatever.
This isn't really about an opera award, right?
not.
No,
a-
this is
it not
something.
a
Hold on.
administration, but these sorts of things, I think, go a long way. So kudos on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, I just want to say again, this
APA.
this goes to show
Not
that,
ARPA. Not
you know,
OPER.
when there's a plan, I think a lot of times, things come out and people are kind of,
I actually don't even know what this fucking is. I didn't bother to read this agenda item.
or they're going to do, or they just put that report out, or they just did this, but, they're not really committed. And this goes to show me
The city of Worcester was awarded the 2021 Sustainability and Resilience Award from the American Planning Association's Massachusetts chapter
congratulations, because it shows
for its strategic plan.
Continued commitment to stand for not just putting words on paper.
Yeah, this isn't worth listening to.
Because it seems like it's, it'll sound
No
good
one
and
fucking
it'll
cares.
please people, but actually putting it that we actually care in the city about
Mo Bergman,
about climate,
go fuck yourself.
about a number of different things.
Well, she's going on something else now.
And in the future. And so, this award gives testimony
Yeah, right.
of the good work. And so just wanted to say congratulations.
Almost twice as many as their stream has, Mo Bergman.
People can talk the talk, but it's good to see that our administration is not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk, and this is proof of it. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry, just wanted to say, sorry, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to say congratulations to the administration as well and John O'Dell for his leadership. This is a tremendous and it's really terrific validation as well that we got a good plan, we got a good road. Thank you.
Oh, good point. So congratulations, Mr. Manager and your team. Keep up the good work. It's taken us several years.
Congratulations, Mr. Manager.
There, but we're getting there. So we will allow that roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Hajier?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen?
Yeah, I don't know.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Like who? Like
Yes.
they won an award from some agency I've never even fucking heard of before. It's
Okay, we are
pointless to talk
finance
about.
items 8.38, collectively 8 through D.
Bill, were you around when Worcester became an all-American city?
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
No, I was covering a different municipality at that time.
Okay,
but I'm aware of what that is, and it's such a charade.
Yeah, no, it's like a thing you basically pay for, and then they put on a presentation that but we I think we still have the signage all around the city. Ever since we did that, I think it was Hoover was city manager at the time. Might have been O'Brien, but either way, it was a. Anytime we do this congratulation thing, it's
to make the city council office and city council meeting.
like, yeah, you're doing a great job. That's why you're still there. That's you don't need to hear it constantly.
Right? Yeah.
Russell, are you doing that?
Mr. Chairman.
Or watching them kiss their own ass.
Hold on, this is participation thing.
From the clerk, or maybe even from the law department, if
This is Jenny's
with the
shit.
use of the Zoom technology that's we're going to be moving toward. But if anything could be done to basically prohibit the kinds of calls like we got tonight, that's unheard of. It's not any way that I think that the chair or the clerk could have screened those calls with the way it is now, but I wonder if there is a way. It's interesting that those two calls came in over devices as opposed to phone numbers, because if people are calling in, you obviously would have had the phone numbers. But the rules of our council have always been that people come to the microphone and identify themselves who they are. And I just would like to see a way of further doing that in this virtual platform, or that that we're going forward with. That's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman. So I don't expect the clerk or the law department to have an answer to that now.
Bob
but,
Barker,
I just think
you don't know.
George Russell's like, if we switch to Zoom, are more people going to tell us to fuck off?
Mr. Mayor, if I can say a few words.
Mr. Clerk.
To the chair, to the council, so certainly I can bring back a report of similar-sized cities. One of the communications on tonight was to have a sign-up form on our city's website on the clerk page. We know similar-sized cities, Boston, Springfield, Cambridge, have public participation, especially the virtual participation. They sign up with the clerk's office beforehand, so I can certainly provide a report back to council of what similar-sized cities are doing. remote public participation.
Mr. Chairman, I want to be clear too. I'm not looking to stifle the public's or any individual's ability to call in and to be heard.
Yeah, you are.
You know, in a proper.
Sure sounds that way.
manner. But what I'm suggesting is that maybe on the virtual platform, that being a person as an actual person that's doing the talking, on the platform where you're using a telephone number, obviously the person calls in on a telephone number, the phone number appears. So, you know, I'm just wondering, I'm not.
Okay, so a thought I just had.
For the clerk.
This whole thing about like maintaining some sort of like respect or like decorum or like decency is the same mentality that leads us to very politely entertaining like Donna Colorio talking for her full 5 minutes about how opioid addiction is a thing. And if we dispense with both and simultaneously made the meetings more entertaining and cut through like the formality bullshit, then it would be more fun and more people would be invested. Like, I don't know. I think that if I was a city councilor and someone called in and was like telling me to fuck off and shit, I think it's funny, you know? I'd be like,
You would hope that you would think it was funny because you would hope that you wouldn't think they were referring to you, right? Like,
well, yeah, but even if they were, I mean, people have been telling me to fuck off since I started writing in Worcester, so it's fine. Right?
This might run out, so
It's all good.
yeah, I've actually had a couple side conversations with folks who were like really upset by that, and I can totally appreciate people who get offended by people doing offensive things. I am not one of those people, and I don't have a problem with somebody calling in and telling the council to go fuck themselves. So that's as legitimate a statement as spending an hour making me listen to your deep thoughts on Brattle Street and the sanctity of that neighborhood, right? Like, I find them offensive. Like, that just takes up way more of my time.
Appointing the city clerk, those two gentlemen, Mr. Cottle, Mr. Van.
Yeah.
Now we have clear.
Start talking about speech issues and I turn fucking libertarian real fast.
Yeah.
You should be able to say whatever you want all the time. And I know that that's, you know, you're going to say some fucking shit that's dumb as hell a lot of the time, but
yep,
better than
contact my city council.
The alternative.
Heard how impactful that is. And this is really public facing oriented. I would like to actually make the motion that we have. I know what they're doing in similar sized cities. And have a report back on that so we can discuss this in March. But I really just want to go on the record that I'm considering this a piloting of this right now. You know, and Mr. Chairman, there are rules of engagement and the proper protocol, conduct, and etiquette and demeanor that occur in our meetings.
Yeah, but what about that woman a couple of weeks ago that came in and did it right to their face?
Yeah,
and for the public as well. And I think that we should take every opportunity.
Freeze Peach.
Of that. But I just wanted to also ask Mr. Vangelli if he could just share quickly before my thing dies here. You know, in terms of things that are coming online first. How he sees this and how he's already experienced this impacting community engagement.
The chair to the council. So basically, most of the applications.
I'll be right back at it.
The reason I put the communication forward regarding the folks signing up for public participation, it's certainly the purview of the city council, and I think as I kind of indicated on the line of my communication, if the council wishes to set up parameters, they can.
Yeah, we really aren't any.
So it could possibly be amendment to the public participation rule if you'd like to do some kind of sign-up form. The only thing that we have in the works right now is switching to Zoom as of March 1st in terms of the virtual platform. There's nothing in the works unless council will direct the city clerk's office to set up some new parameters when it comes to participation.
I love that Councilor Russell doesn't seem to have ever heard of like spoofing a phone number, though. I mean, I must get 15 phone calls a day from a 508 area code, right? That are clearly not from here, right?
Well, I mean, look it up right now. He's holding a piece of paper that he printed off an email just so he could read it.
Back on this with the different districts and also the change in district thing.
Also, King is the one that looks the most like mayoral with the flags behind him and the.
Councilman Wen?
Through the chair, I would just like to ask the city clerk, I do echo a lot of the folks who called earlier about the reasoning behind using the ARPA funds. And so I would just like to hear the logic and reasoning, because I do believe that the ARPA fund should be utilized to support, our recovery and for the most vulnerable during the, COVID and its impact.
Every week, Bob, every Tuesday.
We cannot condone this, but if it happens on your accord.
Certainly, I think part of my understanding from the ARPA funds, especially
like $15 a month.
Addressing accessibility and making the meetings more accessible to the public. My understanding from our grant officer.
You'll fit right in, Bob.
Shift again, it's at the discretion of the council. If the city does shift to a new agenda management software, a part of that building costs as well as licensing costs in the next few years can certainly come out of the ARPA funds. That is my understanding at this point. I can certainly reach out to the budget director with more information. Again, as this communication is mostly at this point for committee, and if the committee decides and the council decides that they want to move forward with replacing the agenda management software that we currently have, I think we can certainly explore.
Cannot condone that.
How to use city funding, the role of the council to use it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you get a certain amount of people like we're doing right now, tuning in just to hear somebody in public comment tell the mayor to go like fucking suck his dick from the back, that's more people that are watching and paying attention than would be.
Yeah.
Which is like the same thing that that we're doing here.
That person is just likely to stick around for the 5 minutes necessary to realize that we have an arbitrary number of dogs you can keep at your house, right? And that's a win for everybody.
Okay, we have around 10.8 being on a roll call.
Roll call. Councilor Bergman? Councilor Caloria?
Yes.
But
Councilor King?
Yes.
Dude, it was so funny that the city manager was on Talk of the Commonwealth and he said that the Midtown Mall doesn't fit the neighborhood now.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, you, the person who put up a ballpark made out of CSX shipping containers, is the one talking about aesthetics of design. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This past Saturday evening, up in the upper end of Lincoln Street.
Yeah, you're right, Jack.
Coat Street area at approximately 8-9 p.m. The lights went out for about 236 individuals. Those 236 individuals had nothing to rely on except for every 2 hours, the grid was telling them their power would be restored. My understanding is that for the grid, they typically have notified the city.
She's talking about National Grid by the grid, right?
If need be, and if everybody recalls, on Saturday evening, the temperatures were pretty low. And unfortunately, for 21 hours, nobody thought it was in their interest from the grid to call the city of Worcester. When I contacted Nicole Valentine and we reached out to the grid, these folks then realized.
Is Kenny going to talk about how she drove down to Ralph's and shot the transformer before Sean's show?
I would like a report
Because Sean said she looked like sadness from inside out.
Someone shot the transformer?
No. So Sean was supposed to have a comedy show at Ralph's on
in that area. So these folks
on Thursday night,
power was not.
But the transformer that feeds the power to Ralph's, and only Ralph's, it's like a dedicated transformer for the bar, caught fire like an hour before he was supposed to perform. And we were talking about how it was definitely Kenny Merrill Carlson that came down and shot it with a gun. It's funny because that's like never ever happened before. And Shaun tried to book a show outside during the summer, and it just like poured buckets of rain that day, and he had to cancel it. So he just can never have a show at
I would
Ralph's.
ask the administration for a report back on what happened.
Just can't happen
in
for him.
The Upper Lincoln Street area. And I want to preface saying all this with once I contacted Nicole when I was notified, this matter was taken.
God doesn't like Shaun. God does not like Shaun at Ralph's. He does not want Shaun performing there.
On Sunday morning, I think
Which kind of fucking sucks, honestly, because Ralph's is an exceptionally designed venue for comedy.
It really is.
When we had Eddie Pepitone there over the summer, and it was a nearly sold out show, and he killed it, and like it was perfect. Like that it should be on comedy people's radars.
We had one in
But
2007.
that's someone else's problem now, baby.
This is
I quit.
something that
I'm out.
Don't steal our idea, Bob.
Yeah. Fuck you, Bob.
Again,
Build your own Ralph's.
looking for a report back on.
No, but I agree, Bill. I've always loved Ralph's, and I think it's perfect for comedy upstairs.
Exceptional
especially.
comedy venue. Yeah, the upstairs venue is exceptional for comedy.
And for weird shows.
Yeah, I've played a few there myself.
There's an awful lot of residents who are down there.
Have you ever done a solo cello night?
Want to know
No,
why
I'm
this
not good
happened
enough.
And why is this, at least to my knowledge, since I've been elected,
Yeah.
it's happened now 3 times. And when we're talking about 4 million gallons of waste going into the lake, the other big question.
Oh,
is,
yeah,
what
this is
this
a-
doing to the lake. What is it doing to
The fact that Worcester just has a long-standing infrastructure problem that results in thousands of pounds of piss and shit dumping into a lake widely used for recreation, like a lot of the year.
working around the clock, and this took place on
You know what?
Sunday morning.
We
On
got the
Monday
damn
night,
ballpark built, though.
by
You know,
about 5:45,
you know, we
they
can't
were
fix
able
that,
to
but we
get
got
this
that damn
under
ballpark
control.
built.
But,
Like, this is not an isolated event. This happens reliably once every year or so. Like,
Yeah, and if it's not Quinsigamond, it's the overflow into the Blackstone, right? I mean, this
Yeah,
is the
right.
long-standing problem with the state of Rhode Island because we're ruining the Narragansett.
Thank you. I just wanted to very quickly publicly thank Commissioner Fink for his speedy response to the underpass over on Brook Street and West Boylston Street. It strangely decompensated very quickly over the last couple of days, and appreciate his quick response today and his assessment to get it taken quick care of by he and his team.
yeah, listening to Kenny Merrill Carlson speak is a lot like masturbating with sandpaper. That's
Go
maybe a touch dramatic, but it is the same feeling.
Thank
For
you, Mr.
sure.
Chairman. I just want to echo
Mentally,
my
emotionally,
colleague's concern
maybe not
regarding
physically.
Quinsigamond.
Unless you're masturbating while she
Up on
speaks,
the
which
lake
is
from
just
Henley
too
to
weird to think
Tassie
about.
Beach over on the
Yeah.
Shrewsbury side.
That's your problem at that
probably a
point.
couple decades.
Yeah.
It's a place I still take my daughter to go into the waters.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, in addition to what's been asked for, given the facts that's happened a few times since during
Jesus,
myself
Jack.
and my colleagues' term for 3 terms. I'm
Wow.
just wondering, with regards to the ask, around
Jack,
local
that's a
environment,
wild accusation
which
right
I
there.
also
Feeling
echo.
confident in himself.
What sort of, and specific to this issue, right? The health advisories, what sort of state and federal responsiveness and supports are we getting? In addition to that, I know obviously we share this body of water with other communities. I'm just wondering,
Is it just me, or do these meetings go longer when they're all on
Council's probably
Zoom?
well aware of what's
Yeah, I don't
going on,
know.
as well as,
I think so. Yeah. There might be something to that actually, in that the process is a little more difficult.
At large to be aware of that as well.
And maybe they just can't feel the vibes in the room of them talking too long, so they just talk longer.
And I'm not blaming anyone, and I'm just calling on the city to do anything we can.
Yeah, that's just interesting.
To integrate.
We didn't used to go 3 hours.
Local supports on this because this body of water, is continually having a challenge.
If anyone listens to Talk of the Commonwealth, I'm going to be on at 8:10 or 8:15 tomorrow, talking about the Intercept article and the decertification vote at St. Vincent. If I wake up, that's early for me, so
the press release that was
hopefully
sent out today
I don't blow it.
mentioned that,
But Talk of the Commonwealth, great program. Hank Stoltz is a treasure, and Ben White does a lot of work. So
yeah, he does. Benny Blanco, unsung hero of the show.
Yeah, Ben White does a lot of work. He's really invested and he's smart and he cares.
into Lake Quinsigamon. And I want to say that I think he's very forward thinking because in the past, all we've done is just repair it. And so when we built that, we should have had a bypass system. We know that the pipes coming down Belmont Hill are aging and all of that. So I think that it was very wise to take a look at.
They like a lot of headroom, Curtis.
In the future. And so I want to thank
specifically the Ed Augustus. He's the worst.
You're on mute.
Listen, Jack's not my apprentice. He is my indentured servant. He will be released at the point where I get 10,000 Instagram followers. And until then, he eats gruel in his cage.
I too represent many abutters on Lake Quinsigamon, and we're receiving many phone calls and emails and the like from residents that were asking questions about what was going on. And Mr. Chairman, I'm a little disappointed that I didn't have that information at that time to relay to constituents when they were asking questions. Mr. Chairman, the administration, Commissioner Fink and his team should be congratulated for their quick action. They should be congratulated for their efforts in trying to get pump trucks, a parade of pump trucks, from what I understand, to get as much of it pumped up and out so that it would avoid going in Lake Quinsigamon. But I think that as part of that report, I would like to know why the city was not.
Do you do this routine at Thanksgiving too, Jack?
Right away to the public.
Is that serious,
telling
Jack?
Folks, what area services that pump station, and asking people to do their best, to cut down their water usage as quickly as possible. I know it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, but this is a question that I asked on email,
Especially when you're playing in the Monday night game.
and it's I think that
George Russell always does this thing where he's like, I'm upset I wasn't provided the information. It's like, well, you have everyone's fucking phone number.
the flow.
Like, why are you bringing this up in the city council meeting? Just be like, just call the city manager and be like, what's going on? And he'll be like, oh, the sewer thing overflowed again.
Needs
You're
to
like,
be
okay.
looked at. And Mr. Chairman, I've been on this council for 10 years.
Also, just gonna point out that not one person so far has talked about what it would take to make sure this doesn't happen anymore.
I really did.
Right?
Yeah, it would involve money, and we spent it all on a baseball park.
Even with the
Right.
drive station, that we're taking pressure off the
If I ever
system
get to
so
the point in my
that
life
we
where
build
a
before
4
we come
million
back to
gallon
administration
capacity
as soon
super
as
soaker
possible. And I'd
is
like to have a
unloading
discussion,
4 million gallons
at
of shit in my
Public
face,
Works
and I
Committee
decide to call
that
George
would
Russell
include
to
what is
say,
needed to
George, what's
make
going
sure
on?
that this never
Just-
happens again.
That's when it's done. I don't want
Hopefully
anybody
it's
to
been
even
addressed,
acknowledge my existence
Yeah,
anymore at
Press
that point.
release that was out
I'm just gonna
today
hope.
Basically said that this the fix was there, and if that's all we need, great. But if it isn't all we need and we need more, we should be talking about it. And I'd like to look back a little bit to say, what about all the things that we did previously and what happened?
Got your back, Troubler.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. So that the reports collectively, we'll file those reports to the manager. Roll call.
Councilman Bergman,
Yes.
Councilman Lawyer,
Yes.
Councilor GA,
Yes.
Councilor King,
Yes.
Councilman Carlson, Councilman Yen,
Yes.
Councilor Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Rose,
Yes.
Councilor Russell,
Yes.
Toomey,
Yes.
Mayor Petty.
Yes, so we have a motion to adjourn. Roll
Thank
call.
God.
Thank God.
Councilor Bergman,
Yes.
Councilor Lawyer,
Another really depressing one, gotta say.
Yeah.
King,
Yes.
Councilman Carlson,
Yes.
Councilman Yen,
Yes.
Councilor Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Rose,
Yes.
I mean, there was no
Russell,
confusion on vote this
Yes.
week, so that was
Toomey,
good.
Yes.
Mayor Petty.
Yes. Thank you.
But there was also not a vote significant enough that people could get confused.
No, it's just and it's depressing too that it's this whole meeting was just indicative. It should be confirmation for anybody in this city who feels that they need the assistance or the support of the administration and our elected officials. It's not there for you. Like they don't even know. They're not even familiar with the issues that you're dealing with. They're just being brought up to speed in real time right now.
Right, right. And they like the way the system is supposed to work is that these are the policy setting.
Right.
This is the policy setting body that dictates the direction that the city manager should head in and dictate the priorities for how he runs his administration. But what we see is that it's just purely reactive, like Brendan said, and they're just looking to get caught up on what the administration is already doing. And that's like something that could just be a fucking email or a private phone call. And instead, we're all being subjected to it. So I wish I was here for the part of the meeting where a couple people called in and told the mayor to go fuck himself, because that seems like the most productive thing that that happened all night, honestly.
I'm not gonna lie, it was funny, but yeah, that's behind us now.
Yeah, Curtis, I did the thing. I made the sound a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one besides I think that I really need to sit down and think about a post about how resistant to change this institution is. And I think that that's a really that's something that we should be really thinking about, having been presented with this exciting new coalition of like way more left-minded people than we've had on the council in a long time, and just seeing how it is just sort of washing up against the rocks of this institution that doesn't see it as its responsibility to really do anything at all, you know?
Right. Well, and especially in the context of at least for the conversation around unhoused folks. I mean, that's a conversation that spans multiple administrations, right?
Right,
Like, they're just being brought up to speed on initiatives that began under the Hoover administration and the O'Brien administration.
Right.
And they're talking about it tonight like it's new to them, and like that. Yeah, that's just depressing. If you're in a demographic in a community that is expecting something from this body to be the institution that saves you, I'm sorry to disappoint.
Right, but you got to think about where it could be.
Right, exactly, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to Talk of the Commonwealth tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do some plugs.
At
Everybody should
8.
go.
Yeah, some plugs. Okay, so yeah, check out my Substack as always. That's how I continue to be a journalist in the city. And it's billshaner.substack.com. It's called Worcester Sucks and I Love It. There's a podcast component, as you'll see. And Google Bill Shaner intercept St. Vincent and read that story because that's something that I'm probably the most proud of this year.
More than this shirt?
Yeah, actually, a lot more than the shirt that wasn't even my idea that I put up as a joke. You're right. Yeah. You subscribe at billshaner.substack.com. But that's it. That's it for me right now. Yeah. Brendan, anything?
No. I actually have absolutely nothing. I'll be here until these guys tell me to get lost. So yeah.
Every
Otherwise-
week, Brendan and Bill, you guys bring so much insight and information. And for Woot Nanny, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. This was a longer one. We'll be here every Tuesday, bringing you the hot gossip on the city council meetings.
Oh, and don't forget, sponsored by Crafty Kombucha, Worcester's local culture, Worcester's other brewery, fucking best goddamn kombucha you're ever gonna drink. So get
Have
some
the
of it,
pleasure of
grab
putting
a
in your
bottle.
mouth.
Yes, get in the habit of drinking that stuff. And that's just a wonderful small Worcester business, homegrown, grassroots, the stuff we like to see. And thanks everyone for tuning in. This was fun.
Have a great week.
See you next Tuesday.